Chapter 91 Arrival. Just you? Philip had been waiting in the conference room for a long time. But he was a little confused when he saw the people coming. The primate tribe already had 8 family forces. But now there were only 4. Mandragora, Halton family, Deep Sea Group, Extreme Group. These organizations are among the strongest families on Spinach Star. Among the members who were turned into blanks in the world of swords and magic, there are their people. Philip, forget it. The ruler of Halton was smoking a cigar, puffing away with a calm expression. He seemed to be full of energy, but for some reason, he gave people a feeling of depression. Obviously, he was helpless in the current situation. Bang! Fei Pu suddenly stood up, pressed his hands on the table, staring. Jeff, what do you mean by this? Jeff spread his hands and said helplessly, what can it mean? Of course it means literally. You know the situation. The strength of Blue Star Lin Fan is obvious to all. Do you think we can be his opponent with our current strength? Hearing this, Fei Pu was very unwilling, lowered his head, and breathed a little heavily. Although Jeff was telling the truth, such truth was not what he wanted to hear. From the beginning to the end, he wanted to suppress Lin Fan and make no changes to the power class of Spinach Star. Are you all willing to watch everything we have worked so hard to build disappear like this? Fei Pu roared angrily, hoping to use such words to make them and Lin Fan make a final fight. Suddenly, the scene was very quiet. Everyone's face was very solemn. To be honest, they naturally didn't want Lin Fan to stretch his hand too long, because Spinach Star was their territory. How could they tolerate outsiders' interference? But now, he is stretching his hand in front of you. Not only did he reach out, but he also slapped you hard in the face. After that, he stuck out his tongue at you and made a face, as if to say, hit me. Hit me if you can. They were so angry that their livers were about to burst. But they had no way to do anything but watch. Jeff stood up and said slowly, everyone. When I came, my son told me, Father, when the trend is irresistible, don't be a fearless roadblock. Otherwise you will be smashed to pieces. Not to mention whether there will be anything in the future. Even what you once had will be gone. So everyone, I won't play with you. If you have any ideas, just decide for yourself. I'll go first. After saying this, he left in a swagger. As the ruler of Halton, he had reached the peak of his life long ago and had enjoyed everything. Although he was very dissatisfied with Lin Fan. When the trend was irresistible, he had to know the current situation and be a hero. If he always didn't know what was good for him, there would be problems. With the departure of the leader of the Halton family, the atmosphere on the scene became more depressing and solemn. Finally, someone else stood up. Sorry. I will withdraw from the action against Blue Star Lin Fan. The general trend is irresistible. The creatures of all races on Spinach Star have gone crazy. No matter what measures we issue, they have no effect. Our extreme group has always been pursuing the limit of the copy. I think following Lin Fan's footsteps seems to be a good choice. Goodbye. The leader of the extreme group left. When they came, they had already discussed with the leadership of the group and were not optimistic about Fei Pu's idea. They thought that his choice was to fight against the stone with an egg and seek death. Therefore, when they came, they had already made their own decisions. The only remaining leader of the Deep Sea Group also stood up. Before leaving, he looked at Fei Pu, who was in a bad mental state, and said, Fei Pu, forget it. The ending has been decided long ago. You might as well take a look at the situation in the forum. At any time, it is important to choose the right path, rather than going further and further on the wrong path and eventually unable to turn back. Fei Pu did not speak, and looked at the slowly closing door of the conference room in shock. At this time, the creatures of all races in every corner of the Spinach Star are no longer discussing which dungeon to go to, or who to find to enter the dungeon together, but about believing in Lin Fan. In a shop. This is a small shop specializing in handicraft products. But now a group of young people are crowded in the small shop waiting. Is it done? Yes. It's been a long time. They were very anxious, tiptoeing to look inside, and they were very impatient. It's done. With the sound of ding from the machine, a man faced everyone and raised the statue in his hand. Look! This is the statue I polished with a machine based on the photo. How does it feel? Is it exactly the same? There is no comparison between human carving and machine carving. People may have problems, but the machine is 100% accurate. There will be no mistakes, and it will be perfectly restored. This is the effect we want. Someone opened his mobile phone, looked at the photo, and then looked at the statue. It's exactly the same. No problem. Then should we believe in it now? But what is the process? What should we do in the first step? Everyone talked about it. Now, they are very excited. Since they saw the post on the forum, they have been fascinated by the beautiful future inside. Unlimited entry into the dungeon world. And you can also get preferential treatment to complete the task. Even Zombie Era can go in and complete the task, which is something they dare not even think about. The guy who made the statue is called Mike, with short hair and glasses. He pressed his hands and signaled everyone to be quiet. He said that since he has a small skill in making statues, he will need Mike's help later. So they looked at him very respectfully. Faith requires kneeling on both knees and believing devoutly. There are too many people here. Otherwise, I will make the remaining statues quickly, and everyone will take the statues back and try them carefully. Mike said. Okay. I agree. This is a good idea. If that's the case, then give this first statue to me. I'll go back and try it first. If it works, I'll tell you. No. It must be given to me. I have a strong ability to describe. Let you do it. What if you can't describe it clearly? In order to go back and try in advance. Everyone quarreled again. Stop arguing. If you keep arguing, you'll have to figure out how to make the statue yourself. Mike's head was buzzing with their noise. This is the first statue. So I'll do it. You all line up and come one by one. The machine can make it very quickly anyway. Why rush? As Mike scolded, they shrank their heads and waited obediently. The machine was running. Sawdust was flying. And the statue-making project officially began. And this situation happened everywhere on Spinach Star. Everyone couldn't wait to establish contact with Blue Star Lin Fan, meet the requirements of Faith, and then enter the dungeon world to do tasks. And go to those dungeon worlds that they once wanted to go, but didn't dare to go to. Blue Star. Boss. Everything has been posted. Gargamel returned to report the situation as soon as possible. He was proud. The group of loan sharks went from being arrogant at the beginning to being terrified, then excited, and then flattering. After all, he just wanted these guys to understand that. To be honest, my boss is Lin Fan. You know what I mean? It's all said to this extent. What else is there to say? It's really better not to understand too much. Lin Fan said, after you sent the post. Did the primate guys have any reaction? Such as deleting those posts as soon as possible? No, Gargamel said. This made Lin Fan a little confused. Are those primates so bold? Or do they not take this matter to heart and think it is impossible to do? Gargamel said, Boss. If you ask me, those primates must have been intimidated by your power. You gave them the opportunity to believe, which is a kindness to them. Maybe they are so excited that they can't sleep. Boss favorability +1. Hear the prompt. Gargamel raised his little head, slightly satisfied. Sure enough, praising the boss every day is one of the few pleasures in his life. At this time, Levi also hurried back. Although he hasn't spoken yet, it can be seen from his shocked expression that he must have seen news that Gargamel didn't know. Boss, there is an amazing discovery, Levi said impatiently. Gargamel on the side waved his hand. What big discovery can there be? It's just that the forum didn't dare to delete our post. I have told the leader all this. Levi ignored Gargamel and said directly, the leaders of several major forces on Spinach Star have posted on the forum. Most of the content is the same. The general meaning is to welcome our leader to become the faith in the hearts of the creatures on Spinach Star. And at the same time, they are very grateful to be able to enter other dungeon worlds under the protection of the leader. Lin Fan didn't expect that the leaders of Spinach Star would change their minds so quickly. But these guys are really smart. If you can't beat them, join them. This is a very wise choice. Gargamel said, Boss. Let me tell you, the primate leaders on Spinach Star must be secretly happy. They directly welcomed our leader on the forum. To be honest, our leader's appearance is really awesome. Now he is telling the truth. He is really domineering. Okay. As a member of the Spinach Star race, he knows how domineering the primate leaders are. It is impossible to make the primate guys bow their heads. But now those guys bowed their heads. It only means that the pressure from the gang leader was too great. So they had no choice but to bow their heads. Hee hee. Lin Fan laughed softly, not taking it to heart. In his opinion, there were only two options for the primate leader, either fight him to the death or give in. Obviously, they chose to give in. Well, it was a wise choice. Now he just had to wait and see if the guys on Spinach Star believed in him. whether he could use the power of faith to appear there. Spinach Star. Mike closed the shop, placed the statue he carved himself, and then knelt in front of the statue honestly, clasped his hands together, and prayed devoutly. He thought silently in his heart, God, I believe in you. I want to go to other dungeon worlds. I want to complete the task. I want to improve the three-dimensional attributes. He said all his thoughts. In his opinion, when facing the statue of the gods, you must honestly say what you think in your heart. Only in this way can you be truly honest with the gods. Time passed by minute. Mike quietly opened his eyes and found that the statue was still the same as before, without any change, which made him very confused. But he did not doubt the authenticity of the gods. He just thought that his belief was not enough, so that the gods did not give him any response. And at this moment, a thunderclap resounded, shaking the world, and Mike almost jumped up in shock. He hurriedly pulled up the shutter door and looked up at the sky. At this glance, his face changed drastically. Shocking. There were lightning and thunder in the sky, and a halo enveloped the sky. It can be said that it was extremely shocking. What the hell? Mike was puzzled, full of doubts. And then he thought of a tall building next to him. Without thinking, he went directly to the top of the tall building. When he reached the tall building, he got closer and saw more clearly. And the strange phenomenon in the sky also changed drastically. He saw a beam of light piercing through the clouds and falling directly from the sky. All the creatures on the street stopped, looked up, and even took out their mobile phones to take videos. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "Look at the forum." Someone posted that it was Lin Fan from Blue Star who will come to our Spinach Star as a spirit. Hack! Who is so fast? I just finished making the statue, and someone has already established contact with the spirit. Who is so awesome? Don't ask. Have you been to the Blue Star Zoo? It was made by the dancing gorilla. He has been following Lin Fan for a long time. Oh, that's it. The answers in the forum also spread quickly. The creatures who were originally prepared to believe in Lin Fan were full of expectations and curiosity. At the same time, the primate leaders also knew about it. Some of them were surprised. Obviously, they didn't expect everything to come so quickly. They knew that belief in this situation would definitely not be stopped. But this is too fast. The TV stations on Spinach Star were like smelling something delicious. They immediately ordered the most professional reporters to take a helicopter to the scene to shoot. And they must get first-hand news. At this time, Lin Fan was not in a hurry at all. He was thinking about what to say when he arrived at Spinach Star. Pretending? He felt it was unnecessary. The creatures of Spinach Star knew who he was, so there was no need to pretend to be a god. But it didn't matter if he didn't pretend. The creatures of Spinach Star had to treat him as a god. So this opening scene had to be arranged in place. Originally, he wanted to wait for the creatures of Spinach Star to believe in him. But after thinking about it, he decided to let Gargamel return to Spinach Star directly, and he would come with the help of Gargamel's belief. Therefore, he came. Chapter 92. He is so friendly. Hello, everyone. I am your host Ruoro. I am now at the landmark of our city, the Gilded Building. Blue Star Lin Fan will descend to our Spinach Star like a god. Oh, the wind is a bit strong, and the helicopter cannot get too close. We can only watch from afar. Let's not talk nonsense. Ruoro believes that everyone has read the forum posts. Blue Star Lin Fan came with friendship. His faith is spread in many high-level copies, such as the 100 Ghosts Demon World, the Despair Bitter Realm, the Sword and Magic World, and even the terrifying Zombie Era Copy World. Those who believe in him can do tasks in those high-level copies with their faith in him, and at the same time, they will receive his help. I think this is something worth looking forward to for every creature on our Spinach Star. Ruoro is a rabbit tribe, looks very cute, and loves the job of host very much. Therefore, facing the vision of the Advent, she was very excited and not afraid at all. She felt that this was the beginning of the great changes in Spinach Star in 100 years. As a member of the Rabbit clan, especially as a journalist, she knew how much the primates felt oppressive towards other races. Other races had resisted before, but this resistance was not worth mentioning in front of the powerful might of the primates, and was completely suppressed in an instant. Over time, they got used to it, but now the arrival of Blue Star Lin Fan has completely different meanings. Other races can enter advanced dungeons, which means they can get rich rewards and quickly improve their three-dimensional attributes, so that they are no worse than those primates. The feedback is that there are strong people among all races, thus achieving an equal situation. At this time, The creatures of all races who were not at the scene watched the news and looked at their mobile phones, wanting to know the situation at the scene. Some people even regretted why they did not appear in that city. If they were in that city, they could see the scene of Blue Star Lin Fan's arrival with their own eyes. They were all waiting with expectation. At the scene, there was a rumble, and an astonishing roar resounded, and a tall figure suddenly appeared in the beam. Ruoro said excitedly, "Everyone. It appears. Blue Star Lin Fan appears. And the moment for us to witness a miracle has come. He was once a native of the lowest level F-level copy, but his growth rate is beyond our imagination. Now he has come to our spinach star from the copy, which is enough to show how powerful he is." The excited voice spread to every corner through the microphone. Lin Fan's body, who was performing the Dharma Golden Body, towered into the clouds, giving them a strong sense of impact. "Hello, friends of Spinach Star. I am Blue Star Lin Fan." Lin Fan did not play tricks in front of them, and behaved very normally, thinking that he was already an old customer of this forum. There was no need to pretend. Suddenly, cheers resounded through the sky. The creatures of all races on Spinach Star gave a shocking welcome to Lin Fan's arrival. At this time, Lin Fan was very satisfied listening to these cheers. It seemed that he was still very popular on Spinach Star. Thinking of this, he felt that the primates must have suppressed them for too long and had regarded him as the savior. Suddenly, Ruoro, who was in the helicopter, was so absorbed in filming that she seemed to have forgotten her position. With a scream, she fell from the helicopter. The people below were also frightened and screamed when they saw this. Although Ruoro had improved her attributes in the dungeon world, she would definitely not survive if she fell from a high altitude with her current attributes. The lively and lovely Ruoro felt the feeling of falling when landing, and her face turned pale with fear. She knew that if nothing unexpected happened, she would be smashed into a meat pie when she fell to the ground. Thinking of this, she still aimed the camera at the screen. "Everyone, this is the live broadcast that Ruoro will show you at the last moment. When the screen disappears, please don't change the channel. My colleagues will continue to broadcast live to you. It's already this moment." Ruoro didn't scream, but was still thinking about the live broadcast. Such professionalism is really admirable. Just when everyone covered their mouths, unwilling to see the tragic scene that followed, an emergency occurred. Ruoro, who was falling, seemed to be wrapped by an invisible force, and stopped falling, but floated over. The tall figure in the beam stretched out a golden palm and caught the floating Ruoro. Ruoro, standing in the golden palm, stared, looking very small. She didn't expect that it would be Blue Star Lin Fan who saved her. "Are you okay?" Lin Fan spoke, and the vast voice came over. Ruoro carried the camera and stood in the palm of her hand cautiously. There was no panic on her cute face, but her eyes were full of stars as she looked at the tall figure covered by golden light. "Thank you for saving me." She was so excited at this time. The first thing Blue Star Lin Fan did when he came to Spinach Star was to save her who fell from the helicopter. This is to be recorded in history. "You're welcome. I came here with good intentions. If I encounter such a thing, I think anyone would lend a helping hand," Lin Fan said softly. When he saw the equipment, he immediately thought of her profession as a reporter. Thinking of the situation just now, he had to admit that she was really dedicated. Ruoro suppressed his excitement and said, "My name is Ruoro. I am an ordinary member of the rabbit tribe of Spinach Star. My profession is a reporter. I am now broadcasting live, spreading what is happening at this time to every corner of Spinach Star, so that every living being can know what is happening at this time. Can I interview you? Of course. You can ask any questions." Lin Fan must show that he is friendly. Faith is like fans chasing stars. You must show your unique shining points, so that they will chase you. Although entering the dungeon world can get his protection, this alone can make them crazy. But adding a little more will definitely make them crazy to the extreme. Ruoro felt that Lin Fan from Blue Star was so gentle and friendly. Her heart was almost melted by him. At this time, the creatures watching the live broadcast had a sharp rise in their favorability towards Lin Fan. Just the small act of saving people won their favor. After all, in their view, Ruoro was a member of the rabbit tribe and was a dispensable existence. Even if he really fell to the ground and broke into a meat pie, it would only cause some commotion for a short time and would not affect the overall situation. In the end, the onlookers would still cheer enthusiastically. Lin Fan from Blue Star was so powerful that any creature was like an ant in his eyes. But even so, he still took the life of the ant seriously and saved it. He even let Ruoro stand in his palm. His voice was not only gentle, But he also agreed to the other party's interview. Thinking of what the primates did to them, they felt that this was simply incomparable. "Thank you so much," Ruoro said gratefully. Lin Fan always conveyed a friendly atmosphere. Ruoro looked up at the golden and majestic figure and said, "Excuse me, God, can any creature from Spinach Star who believes in you enter the dungeon world?" Lin Fan said, "Of course. Including the primates who have offended you?" Ruoro had long changed her name for Lin Fan and directly changed it to God, which was a respect for Lin Fan. As Ruoro asked this question, the primates watching the live broadcast held their breath, waiting for the result. When Lin Fan started to appear in the forum, the primate leaders began to target him. Although this was not the idea of ordinary primates, those leaders were all primates, and they didn't know whether Lin Fan would bear a grudge against them. If they were not allowed to enter the advanced dungeon, the attributes would be completely widened. By then, perhaps the lowest race would be their primates. This is the turn of events. And it turned all of a sudden. For such a question, Lin Fan was a little helpless. How could he ask such a question? "Just now you called me a god. Don't you know that gods are the most generous? As long as you choose to believe, everything is fine. If you don't choose to believe, it's another way to say it. Yes, of course it includes. Gods are tolerant." Suddenly, all the primates watching the live broadcast breathed a sigh of relief. They thought that Lin Fan didn't need to lie. If he really had an opinion, he could say it directly. Not only would it not make other races feel inappropriate, but he would even get support. "God, you are really too tolerant," Ruoro said. Lin Fan said, "Tolerance is the characteristic of us Blue Star people. Those who are familiar with me should know that when you come to Blue Star, as long as you don't cause damage, we will help you complete the task. This is the fact. Right?" Ruoro nodded frantically. "Well, yes. These are indeed obvious to all. She is a reporter, so she must know this. After all, she has done Blue Star programs and interviewed many Spinach Star creatures who came to Blue Star, and they have received good reviews. As for the group of guys who turned into blank boards, it was they who caused damage on Blue Star. They must be taught a lesson and cannot blame others." At this time, there was a commotion in the crowd, and the crowded crowd actually made way for a passage in an orderly manner. 8 middle-aged and elderly men in different clothes walked slowly. Some of the onlookers were very nervous. Everyone held their breath and didn't even dare to breathe. These 8 people of different ages are the rulers of the 8 forces of the primate tribe. They are powerful and powerful. If they stomp their feet, the whole Blue Star will shake. Now their appearance has caused an uproar in the hearts of all the onlookers. Everyone is waiting. They know that the leaders of these 8 major forces appeared here just for Blue Star Lin Fan. Ruoro, standing in the golden palm, immediately aimed the camera at the 8 people in the passage below. When they appeared in the live camera, the creatures watching the live broadcast from all over the Spinach Star were exclaiming and hurriedly discussing with the people around them. After all, these are real big guys, who could only be seen on TV in the past. Their random thoughts can change the future system of Spinach Star. They are here. What do you think they will do? Will they fight with Blue Star Lin Fan? How is it possible? Even if they are given 10 courages, they dare not. The era of the primates is completely over. Okay. I think they didn't show up before, just to see Blue Star Lin Fan's attitude towards them. Now that they show up, they know that they won't care. I tell you, these guys are very smart. As the primates were pulled down from the peak, their fear of the primates in power instantly decreased. So much so that they dared to tease casually while watching the live broadcast. At this time, Lin Fan's golden shadow stared at the passage below. Soon, the 8 rulers stopped. They looked up, then lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at the golden Lin Fan. Primate Fei Poo, Primate Halton Family Jeff, Primate Deep Sea Group, welcome the gods to come. They behaved very respectfully, without any idea of resistance. When the reality could not be changed, the final choice could only be to accept it silently. They had controlled Spinach Star for so long, and now they were pulled down from the altar. To be honest, they must be a little unhappy. But there was no way. The strength difference between the two sides was too big, and the important advanced dungeon was already controlled by the other party. Whoever they wanted to come, they let come. The attributes of the reward for triggering a task in the advanced dungeon were very rich. According to the previous situation, even if a task with very rich rewards was triggered, it was necessary to complete the task with life. But now, these are no longer a problem. As the 8 rulers bowed their heads, The Spinach Star creatures watching the live broadcast were silent, as were the crowd watching on the scene. Then, the earth-shaking shouts resounded through the sky. The 8 rulers who were in the shouting did not change their expressions at all, and accepted it calmly. They knew that the result was like this. Fei Pu slowly raised his head and said, "From now on, the system of Spinach Star will change. I hope that all the creatures of all races who watch the live broadcast can check the change system. This is their decision. Rather than waiting for the various races to improve their attributes and overthrow their system, it is better to make changes in advance before those bad things happen to ensure the stability of the primates. It is also a kind of goodwill of their primates to other races." Fei Pu's words spread with the help of the camera. All the creatures were shaking and looking forward to it. They didn't know what the change system would be, but they knew that this was a turning point in history and would enter the main text of history. Even after 100 years or 1,000 years, the main text of history will still record what happened today. Very good. Lin Fan had nothing to say. He didn't expect that this group of primate rulers would be so sensible that he didn't need to say any more nonsense at all. He showed that he had nothing to say. It can only be said that they are smart. Even if they resist, the final result will still be the same. And it is still unknown how many of the 8 people who come here can survive. Death on Spinach Star does not turn into a blank slate resurrection. It is real death. Chapter 93 The Ultimate Dungeon World. The 8 primates in power breathed a sigh of relief. Very good. These 2 words seem simple. In fact, the meaning they contain is not simple. Okay. Their lives are guaranteed, but their status will definitely not exist in the future. Alas. Never mind. Never mind. It is already very good to have the current result. Lin Fan did not stay on Spinach Star, and the rest of the things were left to them. The choice of belief or not was in their hands. Anyway, he said the benefits. If you believe in him, you can enter and exit the designated high-level dungeon at will. If you don't believe, then it depends on themselves. The beam gradually dissipated, and the golden body phantom gradually turned into dots of golden light and disappeared without a trace. The onlookers looked up and couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. There was an indescribable light in the eyes of many people that was full of hope for the future. In the past, races other than the primates did not have a high outlook on the future, because their path to promotion was restricted when they reached a certain level. But now it is different. They can also enter advanced dungeons. They can also become stronger. Pursue the fun of dungeons. Blue Star. The returned Lin Fan stayed in the zoo, and everyone looked at him with worship and admiration. Maitun knelt in front of Lin Fan, crying bitterly. What I have always wanted to do has actually happened. He was very excited. He saw all those scenes. When he saw the leaders of the 8 major forces of the primate tribe lower their proud heads among the crowd, his heart was as if it was hit by some strong impact, and he didn't know what to do. Lin Fan helped Mayan up. All this is what I want to see. And it is also what you want to see. The stability of Blue Star is based on whether the people from Spinach Star can be stable. If most of them are saboteurs, even I can't take care of it comprehensively. And the current result is within my expectations. He said it was true. As for the situation abroad, it has nothing to do with him. He had thought before that what he feared most was that someone from Spinach Star would come to other countries and promise benefits to those warlike senior officials of other countries, thus starting a war. Once the wheel of war started, he could not stop it with his strength at that time. Now it's good. He has taken control of the overall situation. To put it bluntly, those guys can no longer stir up a wave. Even if they really have ideas, even if they take a little action, they will be suppressed by him in an instant. And they can't even stir up a bubble. Gargamel said, I knew that the gang leader was extraordinary when I saw him for the first time a long time ago. So I chose to follow the gang leader and witness the glory he created. He Mingxian narrowed his eyes and said, but I heard when you first met the gang leader, you were very arrogant and didn't think much of the gang leader. You also wanted the gang leader, a native of the F-level copy, to see how powerful you are? Suddenly, a murderous look was revealed in Gargamel's eyes. He Mingxian, if you don't speak, no one will think you are dumb. He admitted that this was the truth, but he hoped that the truth would disappear in the long river of history, rather than someone finding out the truth that he didn't want to mention in the long river of history. This guy is really annoying. He Mingxian shook his shoulders, saying that he is just like that. Lin Fan was used to his quarrels. Quarrels often happened, which added a little fun to the boring life. Do you think there are copies beyond the A level? Lin Fan asked. This is what he has been thinking about. It doesn't make sense. It's impossible that the copy world will be completely cut off at the A level. Maitan adjusted his mood. The tears just now made his eyes slightly red. But with the face of his race. When he appeared in front of Lin Fan now, he had a little sense of humor. No, I have never heard of it. If it weren't for Zombie Era being promoted to A level, there would not even be A level. Maitan was once the strongest and most knowledgeable among all the gang members. Even he didn't know. The result of asking others should be the same. Of course, he felt that no one knew about the copy world above the A level. If there really was one, the primate guys would not have such an attitude now. What a pity. He really wanted to play in a higher level dungeon world. Zombie Era was the highest dungeon. But he had already cleared it. There was no fun at all. Apart from the hard-to-find living people, there were also hideous and ugly zombies who looked like gods. Madden and the others didn't know how high the gang leader's attributes were. But they could understand that the gang leader's attributes were absolutely explosive. The scene of killing the zombie king in 1 second was always engraved in their hearts, and could not be forgotten for a long time. So it was normal for the gang leader to ask about a higher level dungeon world. After all, if the attributes were high, it was natural to go to a higher end dungeon world. Lin Fan left the zoo and came to the security bureau, summoning Wu Hao and the others. He smiled and said, "I have a good news for you all." He stopped talking. Wu Hao and the others were instantly curious. Everyone was waiting for what Brother Lin would say next. "I have been to Spinach Star and spread my belief in Shinto there. From now on, the creatures of Spinach Star will come to us. I think no one will dare to cause trouble," Lin Fan said with a smile. Wu Hao and the others heard this. They were all shocked. They naturally knew the situation on Spinach Star, but they really didn't think that Brother Lin would go to Spinach Star to spread the incense and the way of the gods. This was to completely wipe out Spinach Star. "Brother Lin, will there be a lot of people who believe in you on Spinach Star?" Wu Hao asked. Lin Fan smiled and said, "If nothing unexpected happens, I think there will be a lot." Some images seem to have appeared in Wu Hao and the others' minds. That is, Brother Lin has really become a godlike existence in the minds of the creatures on Spinach Star. He appeared in front of them with golden light all over his body. And then the creatures knelt respectfully, and did not dare to do anything rash. Chao Yu and the others showed joy on their faces. This is a good thing. In her opinion, the Order of Blue Star will be very stable. Lin Fan did not talk more about this matter, but took out the pills refined by Era and placed them on the table. "Chao Yu, hand over these pills. See if anyone performs well, so that they can improve their strength. Although I have ensured that we are safe here, nothing can be guaranteed." Chao Yu nodded knowingly. But she no longer had any worries about the future of Blue Star, because there was Lin Fan. At this moment, Lin Fan's face changed slightly, because his incense condensation had reached its peak, and the incense god position was going to be upgraded. "I'll go back first. I have something to do. You guys go first." Lin Fan stood up, and after saying this, he disappeared in front of them. The incense god power. Flying into the sky and hiding in the ground is more convenient. Chao Yu and the others looked at each other, and then quietly collected the pills on the table. As for Brother Lin's whereabouts, they would not ask. And if they asked, they would say that he was elusive and unpredictable. Home. The incense condensed to the extreme, and the god position was going to break through. At this time, Lin Fan could clearly see the golden incense condensed together and kept spinning. Suddenly, the golden light exploded, as if opening up a new world. The most intuitive thing was that his panel data changed. Identity, incense god position, mythical level, LV3. Moving clouds and rain. Turning stones into gold. Taking objects from afar. Incense eyes. Flying in the sky and hiding in the ground. Dead trees coming back to life. Shifting positions. Dreamland, can enter the dreamland of all things, with built-in scenes to be freely arranged. Pushing mountains and filling the sea, can push down mountains and fill the sea. And the amount of incense consumed is determined by the size of the range. Standing upright without shadow, can hide the body. The sun and the moon have no shadow, and at the same time have no entity, and can hide all breath, and can make attacks ineffective. The incense god position has been upgraded by 1 level, and 3 new incense magic powers have appeared. Lin Fan carefully studied the 3 incense magic powers that appeared. It seems to be okay. Not bad. Not bad. It seems that my incense faith has been further promoted in the copy worlds I have visited. But why so many people believe in it? And the speed of the incense god position is so slow. Is it because the people who believe in me are ordinary people? Lin Fan pondered. Although there are ghost kings and demon kings in the world of despair, no matter what, they are a minority, and most of them still rely on the faith of ordinary people. He carefully distinguished the incense from different copy worlds and traced it back to the source. It was exactly as he thought. The richness of the incense came from the opponent's strength. He rarely paid attention to these things before. Now he carefully distinguished and found the difference here. As for whether the degree of piety has an impact, it goes without saying, it has an impact. But if they are all ordinary people, the difference is not very big. The three-dimensional attribute now seems not so important to me. It can't represent my own strength at all. If I use the incense to condense a blow, the destructive power caused is earth-shattering. The incense god position is separate from the three-dimensional attribute. Just as he was studying his own situation, he suddenly found that there was a new change in the copy column. Not an S-level copy world, but the ultimate level? The ultimate copy world, breaking the boundary. The new strange copy world. Even the name is so simple, but it looks grand and has a style. Without thinking, go straight in. The scene in front of me changed immediately. At the same time, there are new prompts. The ultimate dungeon world. Only one person can enter. The time elapses in proportion. 1 year for breaking through the realm is 1 day for Blue Star. 1 year more than 1 day? This time ratio is quite impressive. Squeak! Squeak! The chirping of birds came from all directions. He was in the forest, and the sun shone on his face through the gaps in the lush leaves. What fresh air! Lin Fan took a deep breath and showed an expression of enjoyment. Without bragging, he could clearly tell whether the copy world was modern or ancient by just breathing the local air in any copy world he went to. Without bragging, this copy world was in the ancient times. This ultimate copy world has no tasks and belongs to free exploration. Note, the strength value of breaking the boundary belongs to the world of super high blood and chi martial arts. The real masters can easily flatten the mountains with one blow. This copy world includes the human race and the demon race. There is no distinction between good and evil. Only the distinction between positions. Lin Fan narrowed his eyes slightly. A world of free exploration. There are also super strong people. And there are 2 types of people and demons. Is this specially used to spread my faith? But how powerful are the real masters here? This question is worth pondering. It takes time to spread faith. In ancient times, there must have been a court. If he appeared in the court directly to show his divine power, to convince the emperor, and to spread faith, then given the situation in this world, he would definitely be watched by super strong people. It would be fine if he could bear it. But if he couldn't, then this copy world would be completely ruined. If his idea of spreading faith was known, he would be targeted everywhere. Therefore, he made a decision. This copy world is steady and solid, starting from the grassroots and spreading slowly. He left this place and went to a popular place. Soon, he saw a village from a distance. Now he was on the road up the mountain. He pinched his chin and thought, then smiled, and suddenly thought of some ideas. A moment later, in the open space halfway up the mountain, a miniature land temple appeared, with a small clay statue enshrined in it. He took out an apple and an incense burner and inserted 3 incense sticks. There is nothing wrong with decorating your own home. There are words on the doorplate of the temple. Temple of the Emperor of Heaven. After finishing the work, he turned around and left, waiting for the destined person. In the village, in the seemingly small village, there are many people, and everyone is busy with their own things. He walked in the street, listening to the shouts of the vendors, and it was really full of life. He came to a stall. Do you believe in gods in the world? Lin Fan smiled. The stall owner was sturdy and had a fierce look. He looked like he had a bad temper. He was stunned for a moment after hearing Lin Fan's question. After a moment, he smiled and said, Sir, do you want to buy something? No. Do you believe in gods in the world? Lin Fan asked. The stall owner looked up and down, thin and weak, with a small physique, and immediately said impatiently, If you don't want to buy, get out. Don't disturb me doing business. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll beat you up. Lin Fan. He left with a smile. He started off badly. He was driven away for the first time he asked. But it didn't matter. No successful person was successful the first time. Walking, he saw what was happening in front of him. A boy who looked about 13 or 14 was pushed out of the pharmacy. He slumped to the ground, sitting there in a daze, looking very desperate. Lin Fan walked to the boy and said softly, "What happened?" The boy looked up at Lin Fan. "My mother is sick. I want to ask a doctor to help me. But I have no money." So, another common sad thing that happens frequently. According to normal development, the boy will watch his mother die of illness with his own eyes, and then feel indifferent to the world, and then despair, and eventually become an indifferent person himself. Lin Fen helped him up and pointed to the halfway up the mountain in the distance. "I heard from others that there is a Tiandi Junction temple halfway up the mountain, which is very effective. If you can worship devoutly, he will fulfill your prayers in your heart. I often go up the mountain to catch wild rabbits, and I have never seen any temples. Yes, go and have a look. Anyway, it's not a loss to go there. What if it really works? I know. Thank you." Lin Fan smiled, patted the boy's shoulder, and walked towards the distance. When he walked to a place where no one was, he became invisible, and then turned around and came to the boy again. The new incense magic is really good. It's very smooth. Chapter 94. Steady progress leads to steady development. The way up the mountain. The boy carried a bamboo basket on his back, held a wooden stick in his hand, lowered his head, and walked up the mountain. His name is Chen Ji. He lost his father at a young age, and his mother raised him to adulthood. But now his mother is seriously ill and bedridden, which makes him anxious. He sold what he could sell at home, but found that ordinary doctors were helpless. So he could only ask Dr. Ma, who had the best medical skills in the village. But he was kicked out because the consultation fee was not enough. A temple? Can praying cure my mother's illness? If there really is a so-called immortal. Even if it takes my life. Chen Ji. I am willing, Chen Ji said to himself. He is just going to try his luck now. He passed by the halfway point of the mountain to worship the immortal, and then went up the mountain to collect herbs to supplement the family income. Although there are wolves and tigers on the mountain, he has to do this. After all, he and his mother have to live. Not long after, there really is a temple. Chen Ji was very puzzled, carefully observing this small temple, not knowing when it appeared. Although he did not go up the mountain every day, he remembered that there was no temple yesterday. The temple of the Emperor of Heaven. Chen Ji looked at the temple plaque and read it word by word. Plop! Chen Ji knelt in front of the small temple. God. My name is Chen Ji. My mother is seriously ill and bedridden. If the gods of spirits, please make my mother healthy, even if it costs my life. Bang! 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 Chen Ji cowed out, then stood up and went up the mountain with a bamboo basket on his back. Lin Fan, who was hiding beside Chen Ji, looked at him with a smile. He didn't know where Chen Ji's home was yet, so he had to follow Chen Ji home, thinking that Chen Ji needed to go up the mountain to collect herbs to feed his mother. He followed behind. He found that Chen Ji's first kneeling down actually provided a trace of incense. Very shocked. Obviously, for Chen Ji, in order to restore his mother's health, even though he knew that gods did not exist, he still prayed devoutly and respectfully, because he was praying for his mother. It was getting dark. Chen Ji's bamboo basket did not pick any herbs, but it was filled with a fat and strong rabbit, as long as an adult's arm. I am so lucky today. Chen Ji carried the bamboo basket and walked down the mountain. For him, what happened was really dreamy. The situation at that time was like this. He wanted to find herbs. Who would have thought that a rabbit would appear and then hit the tree in front of him? That's right. It was a reckless collision without any hesitation. And the trees were shaking, which was enough to show how strong the collision was. When passing halfway up the mountain, Chen Ji stopped, put down the bamboo basket, came to the small temple, and knelt down. He felt that he was so lucky today because he worshipped the gods. He felt that this was the good luck given to him by the gods. He got up, carried the bamboo basket, and continued to walk down the mountain. When we got to the foot of the mountain, there were more and more people. Oh, this rabbit is fat. An old woman was very surprised. The rabbit meat tasted very good, especially when it was stir-fried with chili peppers. The fur could also be sold for some money. Chen Ji smiled and scratched his head. He wanted to talk about the rabbit, but after thinking about it, he decided not to say it. After all, no one would believe it if he told it. And there is a temple halfway up the mountain. When was it built? Chen Ji asked. The old woman asked in confusion, What temple? There is no temple halfway up the mountain. Chen Ji said, I heard someone say that today. So I went to the mountain to see and pray for my mother. There is really a temple there. The old woman shook her head and said, I don't know. Maybe someone did it. How is your mother's condition? Has her condition improved a little? No. It has always been like that. Chinji felt that he was really useless. His mother was sick, and he didn't even have money to see a doctor. The old woman simply said something to Chinji and left. Chinji came to the market in the town with a fat rabbit on his back. He wanted to sell the rabbit for some silver, and then buy some meat bones for his mother, go back to make soup, and replenish her body. The remaining silver was saved to hire a doctor for his mother. Lin Fan, who had just arrived here, followed Chinji for an afternoon and witnessed the hard work of an ordinary teenager who carried the burden of the family. When he followed Chinji to the place where he lived, I found that Chinji's house was very shabby. It was in the corner of the town. Although there was a courtyard, it was surrounded by branches and had no protective function. It was just a decoration. The house was also a simple house made of stones and covered with mud. As Chinji walked into the house, the bare walls were enough to describe it. There was no furniture, only a table and a wooden box for bedding and clothes. There was really nothing else. Mom, are you feeling better? Chinji came to the bed and asked softly. Lin Fan looked at the woman lying on the bed. Her complexion was very bad, and she was very thin. She was indeed terminally ill. If she hadn't been treated by a good doctor, she would have been close to death. Better. The woman smiled. Even though she was in a very bad condition, she still smiled in front of her son. She didn't want the child to worry about her condition. She knew that Aji was very hard. She had been running around for her condition. Mom, I'll go make dinner for you. Today I picked up a very fat rabbit in the mountains. I sold it at the market for some money and bought some meat bones. I want to save the remaining silver. I think it won't be long before I can hire a doctor. Chinji was very happy when he talked about this matter. He felt that life would get better and better. Good. 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 The woman touched the child's head, her eyes full of heartache. Chinji let his mother lie down, then ran to the kitchen to start cooking. Lin Fan, who was invisible, watched quietly. He changed his previous way of spreading faith and chose to take steady steps and start from the grassroots. The extraordinary power of this dungeon world is very strong, and the blood and chi martial arts are very domineering. If he goes to a strong man to spread his faith now, the other party will not regard him as a god, but as a stunning strong man. At the same time, he cannot show his true self and appear in front of them in an ordinary appearance. After all, once his true self is revealed, his style will not be high. It's late at night. After Chinji took good care of his mother, he fell into a deep sleep. He had to get up early to work the next day. At night, there was a slight breeze outside, accompanied by the sound of insects, which made people very sleepy. Chen's mother's physical condition was very bad. She was suffering from illness all the time. Her frowned eyebrows showed a little pain. Lin Fan used his magical powers to soothe the pain in Chen's mother's body. Mother Chen's eyebrows relaxed. Her breathing became steady, and she fell into a deep sleep. I don't know how long. Mother Chen was in an unknown space in her dream. Everything around her made her confused. She didn't know where she was. Suddenly, a door appeared in front of her. Mother Chen walked to the door, raised her hand, and exerted a little force. In an instant, a golden light appeared in front of her. Ah! Mother Chen woke up in the dream, sat up directly, and got off the bed for some reason. Before she could react, she heard a bang. And Chinji, who walked into the room with porridge, was stunned. The bowl in his hand fell to the ground. Mom, you? Chinji spoke a little hurriedly. He knew his mother's situation. She was bedridden and very weak. Even if someone supported her, she couldn't stand up. But now his mother was fine, and she didn't even need anyone's help. She was standing well. This situation shocked his heart. He even found that his mother's face looked good, with rosy color, not as pale and thin as before, and looked sick. Son. Mother Chen also found that something was wrong with her. She touched her arm. It doesn't hurt anymore. Not at all. I feel much better. God. It must be a god. Chinji seemed to think of something, talking to himself, and then he excitedly grabbed his mother's shoulders. Mom, there is a small temple halfway up the mountain road. Someone told me that there are gods there, and asked me to go and worship. I went to pray for Mother, but I didn't expect that Mother's illness would really be cured. Son, Mother had a dream. In the dream, Mother was in a strange place. And then a door appeared. Pushing the door open, golden light enveloped Mother. and Mother was awakened. Mother, Chen said. Hearing what his mother said, Chen Ji became more and more certain that it must be the gods of the Tiandi temple who appeared and saved his mother. As Chen Ji took his mother out of the house and wanted to buy some tributes, the neighbors around him were also surprised when they saw Chen's mother. They knew about Chen's mother's condition. Her condition was very bad. They heard from some doctors that she was already terminally ill, and it was difficult to cure her. But looking at her current condition, she seemed to be doing very well, and didn't look sick at all. Miss Chen, are you okay? A neighbor asked. Other neighbors were also very curious, and they obviously wanted to know what kind of magic medicine Chen had taken to get better so quickly. Chen's mother said, I'm okay. I feel much better. Chen Ji said excitedly. My mother's illness was not cured by taking medicine, but by the gods who saved her. There is a temple halfway up the mountain. I prayed there yesterday, hoping that the gods could save my mother. I didn't expect that my mother really got better. I'm going to take my mother to buy tributes to thank the gods. At this time, Chen Ji believed in the Tiandi Zhengshan temple very much, but he trusted it. But the neighbors were very suspicious about it. What gods or not? Where are there gods in this world? They all thought that Chen Ji might not want to say it. Mom, let's go quickly. Okay. The town is not big, and the news spreads quickly. Chen, who was seriously ill and bedridden, recovered overnight and was able to walk, eat and drink, and was in a very good mental state. This situation shocked them. When they learned that Chen Ji said that all this was caused by gods, many people sneered at it. What gods or not? It was just nonsense. On the street, porridge shop, two people listened to the topic discussed by the people and couldn't help laughing and shaking their heads. These two people carried knives on their backs, and it was obvious that they were not ordinary people. This master is a generous person. He actually gave the elixir that can cure serious diseases to an ordinary citizen. The skin of the speaker was slightly dark, and the exposed muscles were very strong. If a cultivator saw him, he would definitely exclaim, "What a strong blood! Anything can happen in this big world." I think it should be that the boy's filial piety that moved the master. Their voices were not loud, but not small. Two heroes. Can you tell us? We are just ordinary people. We still don't believe in the immortals. But Chen is really terminally ill. What kind of elixir can cure her in an instant? A brave man was very curious and asked proactively. Of course, he kept a low profile. He also knew that the person sitting in the stall drinking porridge was a warrior, and he was not someone ordinary people like them could mess with. There are many elixirs in the world. The elixir that cures serious diseases is indeed extremely precious to you. It is a panacea. But for some masters, this kind of elixir is just SOSO. Have you ever seen a mountain collapse with one punch and a river, and sea split with one sword? The people around shook their heads frantically, indicating that they had never seen it. The man smiled and said, "These methods can only be done by masters who have cultivated to a very high level. But for you, this kind of people can be called immortals." The people around suddenly realized that the immortals Chen Ji was talking about definitely did not exist, and they should have mistaken the masters for immortals. Soon, the two warriors paid the bill and left without paying attention to these things. After all, these were matters that ordinary people were concerned about. Warriors like them would naturally not care about these mundane matters that only ignorant people would discuss. Halfway up the mountain, under the leadership of Chen Ji, Chen's mother placed tributes, knelt down and kowed out, thanking the gods for saving her life. Although Chen's mother didn't know what kind of gods the Emperor of Heaven was, in her heart, she was able to recover because of the gods. There were also people following around. They were just the spectators. They were very puzzled by the sudden appearance of the small temple, and they didn't know who had played a prank, actually building a small temple here and placing small statues of gods. More importantly, Chen Ji and his mother were fooled. At this time, several strong men came from afar, carrying weapons and preparing to go into the mountains to hunt. Seeing Chen Ji and his mother kneeling and kowtowing, the leading strong man smiled and said, "Don't worship what immortals were not. We have heard the explanation from the warriors. Your mother must have taken the elixir to cure her illness. There are no immortals in this world." Hearing this, Chen Ji was unmoved and continued to kneel. Lin Fan, who was invisible, was very helpless about this. He wanted to harvest a group of people who believed in him with the matter of Chen Ji's mother. But he didn't expect that the people in this copy world were also not easy to fool. He was not in a hurry about this. He had to take it slowly, and it would eventually be effective. He couldn't show the golden body phantom and appear directly in front of the people. although that would indeed quickly harvest the faith of ordinary people. For the chi and blood martial arts masters in this copy world, they would definitely not believe it. Mystery is the key. Look! He received incense from 2 believers on the 2nd day of his arrival. This starting point is already very good. Chapter 95. What? My temple was kicked over. Chen's recovery became a topic of conversation among the people in the town. No one cared whether she was a god or not. Halfway up the mountain, Lin Fan was in an invisible state, staring at the endless distance. The scenery was indeed beautiful. This was the ancient world that had not been polluted. He knew what the people in the town were talking about. Not many people believed in gods. He knew it was difficult to make them trust him just by this matter. But if I let Chen Ji, who believed in me, have good luck and live a rich life since the day he believed in it, how would you deal with it? The next day, Chen Ji went up the mountain early. As usual, when he passed by the temple, he knelt down and kowtowed and burned incense. He didn't have any requirements, just daily worship, hoping for peace every day. Then he continued to go up the mountain with a bamboo basket on his back. After reaching the mountain, Chen Ji wiped the sweat from his forehead and patted his face. I hope I can get something today. My mother's illness has recovered, and Chen Ji's heart is very relaxed. He is not as stressed as before. No matter what he does, he is full of motivation. Work. Bang! In an instant, a black shadow passed by, and when he came to his senses, he saw a fat wolf crashing into the tree that the rabbit crashed into yesterday. Ah, this. Chen Ji opened his mouth and blinked. Very confused, and didn't understand what was going on at all. Why did the wolf crash into the tree? He looked around and didn't see anyone else. He walked carefully to the side of the wolf and made sure that the wolf was dead. Excuse me. Who is this? He was afraid that this was someone else's prey. No one answered. After a moment, Chen Ji silently carried the wolf on his shoulders and turned to walk down the mountain. This must be the gods blessing me. It must be like this in the town. Wow! Chen Ji killed a wolf. What? With his small stature. You actually told me that he killed a wolf? Nonsense. They have already brought the wolf to the market and are ready to sell it. And you are still questioning. Chen Ji did not have a stall, so he placed the wolf in a bamboo basket and stood on the street waiting for people to buy it. At this time, the surroundings were full of people. Chen Ji, how did you kill the wolf? A wolf of this size may not be able to be taken down even by 2 or 3 people. Someone who knows a little bit can see at a glance that this wolf is not simple. And its fighting power is absolutely strong. There are no knife or sword wounds on the body. Only the head is sunken, which is obviously caused by heavy objects. But in his opinion, with Chen Ji's strength, it is obviously impossible to burst out such power. Chen Ji scratched his head and said, I didn't kill it. The wolf hit the tree and died. I think it's the gods who bless me. So I encountered such a thing. He still said this situation that no one would believe. Sure enough, everyone looked at him strangely, as if to say, we praise you for being awesome, but you treat us like fools. Right? Chen Ji noticed these looks and said hurriedly, it's true. I'm not lying. If I lie, I'll be struck by lightning. Even the rabbit I picked up the day before yesterday was picked up this way. I think my luck has improved since I worshipped the Tiandi Junction Temple. Citizen A. Citizen B. Citizen C. Soon, a merchant bought the wolf at a high price, and Chen Ji returned home contentedly. He told his mother about it, and Chen was shocked as if it were a story. Then she clasped her hands together and said, God bless you. God bless you. Chen Ji's incident spread in the town again. The people were all shocked, but most of them thought Chen Ji was lying. How could a wolf hit a tree by itself? After all, wolves are very smart and cunning. Sometimes, even professional hunters can be fooled. 1 day later, Chen Ji brought back another wolf. 2 days later, Chen Ji brought back a wild boar with difficulty. In an instant, the town was shaken, and the people talked about Chen Ji's affairs every day. Relying on these animals, Chen Ji's living standard began to improve, and he bought some furniture for his home. Chen Ji always felt that he was dreaming. Such a life was something he had never dared to think about. He attributed all these situations to the gods, and always believed that it was the gods' blessing. The restaurant is one of the few places for urban residents to relax. With a glass of wine and a plate of peanuts, they can stay for an entire afternoon without feeling tired. Instead, they will feel unsatisfied. Do you think what Chen Ji said is true or false? Did those animals really come to the door on their own? I don't think it's possible. Animals are indeed animals. But that doesn't mean they don't have brains. How can they hit the tree on their own? Shinji said it was the blessing of the gods. Since Shinji worshipped the Zhengshan temple, his mother's illness has been cured. Every day when he goes up the mountain, he can bring animals back. Do you think the Zhengshan temple is really so effective? It should be. Maybe it is really effective. Everyone really envied Shinji's experience. At night, the people returned home early. After some couples finished their work, they talked about Shinji. They were all ordinary people. Their biggest wish was to hope that their lives would get better and better, and their families would be safe and sound. They had no other pursuits. Let's go to the temple of the true God tomorrow. I heard that Shinji worshipped the true God and his life became better. Okay, let's try it. This situation is not just one family, but all families are like this. Early morning. Shinji took his mother up the mountain as usual and burned incense to the gods halfway up the mountain. Really, he was very grateful to the gods. Although he had never seen a god, in his heart, he felt that gods must exist. When Shinji arrived at the small temple, he found that there were many more. Everyone was carrying a basket with offerings and incense in it. Some knelt in front of the temple with their hands folded. God bless me like Shinji. I don't ask animals to hit the tree by themselves. I just hope I can walk with my head down and pick up silver. God, I want a wife. God, I want to be the top scorer in the high school. Shinji and his mother stood in the back, listening to the wishes they said. And for a moment, they were a little numb. This is a god, not a wishing father-in-law. Not to mention Shinjim. Even the invisible Lin Fan was numb. He shook his head and sighed. It was really an excessive request. It was really difficult to spread faith. The main reason was that the situation in this world was relatively stable. For ordinary people, they lived and worked in peace and contentment without oppression. Although there were warriors, the things that warriors came into contact with had nothing to do with ordinary people. At this time, an old woman's wish caught his attention. Mainly because this old woman actually had incense to pass on and established a connection with him. This was the third person to provide him with incense. Merciful gods. My son's waist was broken by the beam while working. He lies at home, very depressed, and often commits suicide. Please have mercy on me and let my son recover. Taking incense from others and doing things for them. This is fair. The old woman knelt and kowtowed devoutly, and was incompatible with the others around her. Some people naturally knew the old woman's situation. After all, even the doctor said that her son's situation had been broken, and he was powerless and could only lie in bed for the rest of his life. There was no hope. In the town, the old woman returned home and looked at her son lying on the bed, turning his head away, looking at the window with a dull expression. She felt a heartache and felt uncomfortable. She walked to the bed and whispered, "Son, it will be fine. It will be fine." She didn't mention asking the gods for help. After all, she didn't know if there would be a miracle. If she said it, it would give the child hope. When hope was shattered, it would be more painful than killing him. The man didn't speak, and kept the same action. He was full of despair about the future. Since he couldn't move and became a disabled person, he wanted to commit suicide more than once. But seeing his mother's grief, he gave up the idea of committing suicide and lived like a zombie. The next day, early in the morning, the man woke up and had a dream. In the dream, he was like a normal person. He could run and move, and he met the girl he liked. But he knew that this was just a dream and couldn't be true. Mom. He just felt uncomfortable in his abdomen and wanted to go to the bathroom. Although he was paralyzed, he really didn't want to poop in his crotch, because it made him feel ashamed. No response. The room was empty. The man's face flushed with suffocation. In the past, no matter how he struggled, his lower body was like being cut off, and he had no feeling. But now, he suddenly stood up from the bed. The sudden situation made the man look horrified, and his eyes revealed an incredible look. Before he could think more, how excited he was. The feeling of falling in his abdomen became heavier, and he hurriedly ran to the toilet. Not long after he went out, the old woman came in with a bowl. But when she saw the empty bed, she was startled, put down the bowl, and hurriedly looked around. The room was not big, and she entered at a glance. Son, the old woman shouted, searched, and rushed to the door like crazy. Suddenly, she was stunned on the spot, and saw her child coming out of the toilet. She seemed to be under a spell. She stared motionlessly. Suddenly, her eyes turned red. Tears fell like rain. She rushed to the child and said excitedly, "Son, you are fine. You are fine. You can stand up." The man was also excited and confused. After all, he was paralyzed for so long. And suddenly he was fine. This made him incredible, and didn't know what was going on. The old woman seemed to have thought of something, and she suddenly knelt down and knelt in the direction of the main temple. "God bless you. God bless you." After saying that, she called out, "Mom, what are you doing?" The man hurriedly helped the old woman up. The old woman said, "Son, I didn't dare to tell you yesterday. I went to the temple on the hillside to pray for you, hoping that the gods would save you. I didn't expect that there really were gods. You got better the next day." Ah! The man opened his mouth. And for a moment, he couldn't accept it. After all, the gods his mother said were beyond his imagination. As her son recovered, the old woman didn't say much to her son. After all, she was with him every day, so there wasn't much to say. Then the old woman rushed to the road and shouted at the top of her voice, "My son is better. My son is better. The gods bless me. They really see my son better." The old woman's voice was so loud that the neighbors came out. They all knew the situation of the old woman's child. When they heard that her son was better, they were very confused. After all, a paralytic who had been paralyzed for many years. Even the doctor said that he couldn't be cured. How could he get better? It was only when they saw the man standing next to the old woman with the same excitement on his face. They stared with their eyes and opened their mouths, as if they had seen a ghost. The gods really have power. I went to pray yesterday, and the gods cured my son. It's really effective. The old woman chattered. The neighbors were shocked and didn't say anything, just staring at the man standing there. Lin Fan, who was invisible, nodded with satisfaction. The old lady was really good. She had a loud voice. If the other party believed in him, he would help. If the other party didn't believe in him, and just pretended to get help, it wouldn't work. Soon, the news that the old woman's child had been paralyzed for many years, and suddenly recovered spread. It was even more shocking than the story of Chen Ji's mother. The people who originally didn't trust him began to waver, thinking that the Zhengshan temple might really have something. A few days later, Lin Fan looked at the small hillside crowded with people, and he was very satisfied. Although some people who came to kneel down to worship him still didn't produce incense, there were already quite a few people who produced incense. This is a kind of progress. This is the effect we want. And at this moment, Lin Fan felt a different breath from ordinary people sweeping over him. He looked back. A middle-aged man was coming towards the mountainside. For ordinary people, they might not be able to see anything. But with Lin Fan's current situation, he could see it clearly. The middle-aged man's blood was very strong, and the blood in his body was flowing at a very fast speed. This is the martial arts master in the dungeon world. Lin Fan looked at him curiously. Although he could easily kill such a martial arts master with one punch, he was still quite curious when he first saw such a cultivation system. He thought that if there was a chance, he could try out the system here, not far away. The middle-aged man looked at the situation in front of him and frowned slightly. His name was Hong Li, a master with a very good martial arts realm, who had reached the 6th grade blood coagulation realm. The martial arts realm was the lowest at the 9th grade, and the highest at the 1st grade. He came to this remote place to go deep into the deepest part, and find a medicinal herb to improve his cultivation. What are they doing? Hong Li stopped a passerby and asked. He was strong and powerful, and people knew at a glance that he was definitely not easy to mess with. They are worshipping gods. Gods? Hong Li sneered at this. He hated the tricks of pretending to be gods the most. This had a lot to do with his experience when he was young, because he was deceived. Since he came into contact with martial arts, he completely understood that gods and non-gods were all fake and non-existent. If the martial arts realm is high enough, you can be like a god. Suddenly, Hong Li soared into the air, his body like a flying swallow. Although he was still some distance away from the halfway point of the mountain, he appeared in front of the small temple in the blink of an eye, under the puzzled eyes of the kneeling people. Bang! Hong Li directly kicked away the tribute and the incense burner. You ignorant people! Gods are all fake. Why worship? Work hard. It's better than anything else. Praying to gods and Buddhas, that's a slow death. Hong Li shouted angrily. His voice was like a bell, very loud. The people who worshipped the temple of the true God were stunned. Lin Fan was also stunned. Damn it! It's their business to worship. You kicked him down with a kick. It seems too much. What are you doing? Chinji stood up and roared angrily. Then, more people of faith stood up. Each of them extremely angry. The guy in front of them actually destroyed the temple of the true God, which they could not tolerate. This is the God in our hearts. Shut up. Hanli is good at winning people over with virtue. His roar, which contained the power of blood and chi, made everyone's eardrums a little sore. Chinji's mother stretched out her hand. Trembling, she was shaking with anger. You will be punished. The gods will punish you. Hanli did not attack ordinary people, but looked at the small temple with disdain on his face. Ba retribution? If you have the guts, let this god come to me. You don't want to live your own lives, but put your hard-earned income here, worshipping gods. I think you are simply hopeless. I do this to make you wake up. You say this thing is really spiritual. Then you can see if I will be punished. After saying this, he turned and walked down the mountain. His lonely and proud back and smooth steps all showed that Hanli was very comfortable and felt that he had done a good thing. Let's not look for medicinal materials for now. Let's stay in the town first. He must correct the ideas of these ignorant people, pull them back to reality, and go to farm honestly. Lin Fan, who was invisible, looked at Han Li's back as he left, nodded with a smile. Good guy. He has guts. He really has guts. Qin Ji and his team cleaned up the messed up Jinshan temple. While cleaning up, they were in a state of panic. They were worried that the guy's behavior would anger the gods. Others might not know whether the gods were effective or not. But how could they not know? In the town, Han Li walked into the inn and stayed for a day. The news that the Jinshan temple was destroyed soon spread in the town, and the people who heard about it were shocked. Soon, two situations appeared on the scene. One was that the people who believed in the Jinshan were very dissatisfied with Han Li. The other was the people who were just watching the show. They had no aversion to this, but felt that Han Li was overbearing in this matter, and really wanted to see if he would be in trouble after destroying the Jinshan temple. But they thought it would be okay. After all, he was a martial arts master, and in their eyes, he was like a god. In the inn, Han Li drank wine and ate food. Waiter, come here. Han Li waved to the waiter. The waiter knew that this person was a martial arts master, and he was not someone that an ordinary person like him could mess with. He immediately ran up to him respectfully and asked, Sir, what can I do for you? Sit down and tell me about your place. Why did the people believe in the temple halfway up the mountain? Han Li said, and then took out a piece of silver. I won't waste your time. Tell me everything. This piece of silver is yours. The waiter saw the silver and his eyes lit up. He hurriedly said, Thank you, sir. This is what happened. He told everything that happened before. He started with the story of Chinji's mother. Han Li listened carefully, nodding from time to time. After hearing all the situations, he slowly said, after praying, changes occurred. For them, it seems that they may really be blessed by the gods. It is understandable to believe in the gods. My previous behavior seems to be a bit impulsive. But fake is fake. Gods do not exist. It seems that there are real martial arts masters in your small Qingyuan town. The mother of Qin was seriously ill and bedridden. I think the master must have given her elixir and conditioned her body, leading to recovery. As for the paralyzed person, who was able to stand and walk the next day, it seems that it was a master above the 5th level of qi and blood integration, who poured the power of qi and blood into his body, forcibly opened up the blood stasis in his body, and dredged the tendons and veins. But why did the master do this to ordinary people? Is he really a kind-hearted person? Or is the master from this place? So he returned home in glory, and did some good things for the people. Han Li pondered and felt more and more that this possibility was very likely. And at this time, Lin Fan, who was standing next to Han Li, heard what he said. He could tell that although this person kicked his temple, he was still a good person. And he was also a little curious about the realm of martial arts. 5th grade qi and blood integration? Well, it seems that I have to study it carefully when I have the chance. However, he couldn't let Han Li suffer a little just because he was a good person. After all, he still had to promote his faith. Even his temple was kicked. How could he just let it go? Lin Fan was very stingy. Han Li stood up, and instead of walking from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor, he directly climbed out of the window, as light as a swallow, and jumped over the eaves. Everyone. His voice was loud. The people on the street looked up and showed doubts. Han Li clasped his fists and pointed to the distance. I don't know which senior returned to his hometown with glory to help the people. What I did offended you. But the senior's rescue of others should not be attributed to the gods. This will make the people believe in superstition and be deceived. He said this to the unknown senior. Then he lowered his head and looked at the people on the street. There are no so-called gods in this world. The small temples on the hillside that you worship are all fake. Boom! The words have not been finished yet. A loud roar resounded. The sky that was originally fine was suddenly covered with dark clouds, lightning and thunder. And thunder was wandering. Such a situation shocked the people. Retribution is coming. The gods are angry? There was no rain. But there was thunder. And it was when the other party was saying bad things about the gods. Homley also looked at the sky and muttered in his heart. No way. My luck is so bad. Is there a thunderstorm at this time? Of course. Homley's mouth is very hard. Everyone. Don't be afraid. It's just normal weather conditions. It just happened. It's normal for a place with mountains to have frequent thunderstorms. I, Homley, practice martial arts and only believe in myself. But never. Bang! A thunderbolt fell vertically, smashing the ground, and fell beside Homley. Homley? This is a punishment from heaven. The gods of the Junction Temple are angry, and they are going to punish him. Gods, please calm down. Gods, please calm down. It has nothing to do with us. Some people knelt down and begged for mercy and fear. Homley looked at the sky, and then looked at the place where the thunderbolt fell. It was charred and black, which was indeed a bit scary. He doubted in his heart. Could there really be a problem? But, everyone, this is an accident. As everyone knows, it is easy for thunderbolts to fall where I stand. So as long as I fall on the street, there are no buildings or big trees around. It won't happen. Homley jumped down, landed on the ground, stood with his hands behind his back, held his head high, and was not afraid. The people around him couldn't help but retreat and keep a certain distance from Homley. They didn't know anything else. But the only thing they were sure of was that if they stood with Homley, they would definitely be struck. Seeing the people moving away from him, Homley shook his head. It seemed that these people still believed in the immortals. This was not an acceptable behavior. So, bang! A thunderbolt landed directly beside Homley. Homley was so shocked that his hair stood up and a chill swept through his body. Danger, danger. That's right. That was his first feeling. If the thunderbolt had landed on him, even with his current cultivation, he would have been crippled even if he didn't die. Homley swallowed his saliva, moved his feet, and changed his position. It couldn't be so evil. It struck twice. It couldn't be the same again. There were so many people at the scene. So he had to pick one at random. Bang! Even if Homley changed his position, the place where the thunderbolt landed was still beside him. Ouch! Shit! Homley's face changed instantly. Bang! 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 Thunderbolts fell one after another. Homley couldn't keep calm any longer, and ran around with his head covered. Are you kidding me? Why do you always want to strike me? The onlookers trembled. The gods are furious. Really furious. Thunder from the sky. The gods in the Junction Temple are really spiritual. The gods are merciful and gave him a chance to live. If they really wanted to kill him, there would be no way that all the thunder would not fall on him. Right. Right. The dark clouds dissipated, and the thunder disappeared. Homley, who was running away with his head in his hands, ran to the town gate in panic, holding on to the doorpost, gasping for breath. Although he was not struck, he was already covered in cold sweat. It can't be true. Homley stared, talking to himself, and then looked at the sky. Everything returned to normal, without any problems. He covered his chest, and felt his heart beating very fast, as if it was about to jump out of his body. It was so frightening. Strange. This is strange. It's impossible for a god to do this. I, Homley, practice martial arts. I only believe in myself, and I don't believe in anything else. Lin Fan, who was invisible, heard what Homley said. He couldn't help but shook his head. This guy's mouth is really hard enough. It's not suitable to stay here for a long time. We should withdraw. I want to go back to Shiny Gate. Homley looked at the town. Since there is something strange, then stay away. It should be okay for me to leave. He raised his foot and was about to walk. Bang! Homley fell directly to the ground, and he was like a dog eating shit. Hack. What the HL? Who would dare to believe that a martial arts master who has reached the 6th level of blood coagulation can actually fall down while walking? If you tell others about this, You will be laughed at. For some reason, Hong Li always felt that he might have really provoked that strange god. Hong Li took a deep breath, looked at the ground, and made sure that there was no problem, and walked forward quickly. Suddenly, he felt that there seemed to be something on his forehead, which was sticky. He touched it with his finger, put it to the tip of his nose and sniffed it. The smell was a bit smelly. He tapped it with the tip of his tongue to analyze the taste. Bird shit. Paw paw paw. Hong Li's calm heart began to beat violently again. Riverside. Hong Li watched the bird shit on his forehead, and he felt that his luck seemed to be getting miserable. Could it be that god? Shaked his head, and shook off this unrealistic thing. How could it be possible? What immortals are there? Fake. All fake. After washing the dirt off, Hong Li looked at his face reflected in the calm water, and nodded with satisfaction. He looked extraordinary and heroic. This was the benefit of practicing. He looked extraordinary. Suddenly, the giant tree beside him creaked, and the entire trunk tilted and pressed towards Hong Li. According to Hong Li's strength, he could easily dodge such a pouring speed, and even smash the trunk with one punch. But for some reason, Hong Li found that his legs could not move, and even his arms were the same. He could only watch the trunk fall and bury him. With a bang, the branches and leaves fell and rose up one after another. Hack. Hong Li, whose hands and feet could move, wailed and pushed the trunk pressing on him aside. He was safe and sound. After all, he was so strong that he could not be crushed by the trunk. Hong Li got up in a panic, looked around in horror, and then looked up at the sky. At this moment, he found that something seemed to be wrong. It can't be so weird. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Leave this place quickly. In the mountain path, Hong Li's heart could not calm down for a long time. Suddenly, he looked up and saw a huge rock rolling down from the mountain wall. He wanted to retreat in shock, but his legs seemed to be imprisoned and he couldn't move at all. Ah! Wailed. The rolling rock stuck to his face and fell under the cliff without hurting him at all. He looked at it in panic, and the whole person seemed to be stupid, with a blank mind. All kinds of things happened to show that something was wrong. Suddenly, he remembered that the guy who had deceived him once told him that it was not important to believe in gods or not, but one must have awe-inspiring faith. Otherwise, if the gods were angered, bad luck would be entangled and retribution would be suffered. Since he entered the Shini Gate and practiced martial arts, he sneered at this and disdained it. What bad luck? What retribution? If you have the guts, come on. I will beat you with a pair of iron fists full of blood and energy. That's how domineering and cruel it is. Qingyuan town. It was very lively, and the people were like crazy, discussing it crazily. I saw it with my own eyes. That guy was almost killed by a chop. Oh, I was working in the fields. I thought it was going to rain, so I hurried back and was late. The Zhengshan temple halfway up the mountain is probably really spiritual. Listen to my words. Believe it or not, but be respectful. He destroyed the temple where the gods lived. The gods only gave him a little punishment and didn't take his life. That was mercy. Qin Ji and the others naturally knew about this matter. They believed in the Zhengshan temple very much. Look! Retribution is coming. Suddenly, he's back. Some people exclaimed. Everyone looked over. They saw Hong Li walking in a very embarrassed manner. He lowered his head and walked forward without looking at the people around him. The people who had seen Hong Li before were all stunned. He was so high-spirited before. Why is he so embarrassed now? Did he meet robbers outside? Hong Li went to the mountainside, and the people followed him. Qin Ji followed him all the way. When he passed by his house, he hurried in and put the kitchen knife on his waist. If this guy dared to destroy the temple, he would fight him. Although he couldn't beat him, he couldn't be weak in momentum. Hong Li came to the temple on the mountainside, cowed out heavily with a plop, and wailed, God, I was wrong, don't mess with me. At this moment, the onlookers were silent and shocked. Even the martial arts masters couldn't stand the anger of the gods, which was enough to show that the gods they worshipped were really fierce. Qin Ji breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. This was the scene he wanted to see most. After all, the authenticity of the gods was recognized. Boom! As Hong Li wailed, the sky exploded, as if there was thunder. Hong Li instinctively trembled and was terrified. God! I was wrong. I was a jerk. I shouldn't have kicked you. To make up for my wrong behavior, I am willing to build a temple for you and make a golden statue for you. Please forgive me. The sky was blue and beautiful. It was clear. This made Han Li feel relieved. Shinji walked to his side and said slowly, God is kind. Remember what you said? Build a temple for you, and make a golden statue for you to make up for your disrespect to you. Yes. Yes. I will do it, Han Li said hurriedly. Lin Fan, who was invisible, nodded with satisfaction. This is the right way to say it. After this incident, he felt that his legend was about to spread. Come on, believers. Let this storm of incense be more violent. I can bear it. Chapter 96, I have the protection of the gods. If you kill me, you are against the gods. So expensive? Han Li stared at the mayor in front of him with a strange look. He said that he would build a temple for the gods and make a golden statue. So he must do it. He didn't know much about this, so he could only ask the mayor for help. But after hearing the offer, Han Li was completely stunned. The mayor said honestly, Hero, we don't even want to make a silver tail. It's really the lowest budget. Han Li sighed in his heart and took out the silver from his arms. This is a silver note with a face value of 3,000 taels. This silver note is not his own, but accumulated by completing tasks with his fellow disciples. He handed the silver note to the mayor. Make it beautiful for me, Han Li said. The mayor said, don't worry. This is a temple for the gods. Our local people will also contribute money to make the temple good. This alone makes the authenticity of the gods more deeply rooted in people's hearts. Even the people who didn't believe it before, at this moment, chose to believe it. After all, the martial arts masters really received retribution. Everything that happened was witnessed by everyone. How could they not believe it? Han Li's heart was bleeding. If God gave him a chance to choose again, he would definitely not be so cheap as to kick over the temple of the gods. Even if he didn't believe it, he would take a detour and never meddle in other people's business. He left Qingyu in town. Of course, he didn't leave alone. Lin Fan, who was in stealth mode, followed behind him. He wanted to study the secrets of Qi and blood martial arts. Han Li took every step very carefully when he left the town. He was afraid that the gods had not forgiven him yet. Lin Fan, who followed him, was helpless. Could it be that I, a great god, was so petty? A few days later, Lin Fan followed Han Li to the Shini Gate. He looked up and saw that the aura of this sect built on the top of the mountain was a little wrong. Others couldn't see it, but in his eyes, the luck hovering in the sky was very thin. This means that the development of Shini's sect will get worse and worse. When the luck gradually dissipates, it also indicates that Shini's sect is not far from destruction. Brother Hong, the disciple guarding the mountain gate, called respectfully. Yes. Han Li nodded and walked straight into the mountain gate. Lin Fan looked around. There were many disciples in Shini's sect, and their blood and qi were very strong. But not many reached Han Li's level. It seems that the road of cultivation is not as simple as thought. Not long after, Han Li came to the place where the disciples lived and knocked on the door. The door was pushed open. A man opened the door. When he saw Han Li, his eyes lit up immediately. Brother Hong, you are back, the man said excitedly. Han Li walked into the house, sat at the table, poured a cup of tea, and drank it in one gulp. Junior brother, do you believe in gods? Gods? Yes, gods. Brother, what nonsense are you talking about? There are no gods in this world. Even if there are gods, they are like the master of the sect. Han Li looked at his junior brother helplessly, and his eyes revealed all kinds of grievances. Junior brother, the silver is gone. Ah? Brother, are you okay? Who dares to be so bold as to intercept you and rob you of your silver? Hearing this, the man was not angry because of the loss of the silver, but asked with concern. Han Li waved his hands, and then told what happened to him. The man's face changed again and again. It was as if he was listening to some kind of supernatural story. After a while, brother, are you sure you didn't make up a lie to monopolize the silver notes? Han Li, hearing what his junior brother said. Han Li slapped his forehead helplessly. Brother, what I said is true. If you don't believe me, search me. If I have silver notes on me, I am a beast. 3,000 taels. I really gave them to the mayor of Qingyu in town, and asked him to build a fairy temple for me. After a while, my senior brother will take you to the scene to see it. As long as you see it with your own eyes, you will believe everything. Man, he suddenly found that his senior brother, who came back, was a little strange. He had a close relationship with his senior brother in Shini Gate, so he naturally knew that his senior brother had been deceived before, and what he hated most was pretending to be a ghost. Thinking of this, The man shouted angrily. You are so bold. You dare to pretend to be my senior brother to deceive me. My senior brother doesn't believe in ghosts, and God's the most in his life. Let me show you how I can show your true face. After saying that, the man's 5 fingers formed claws and grabbed Han Li's face. In his opinion, someone must have deceived him by pretending to be his senior brother. The senior brother would not be greedy for their silver. But now that the silver is gone, the senior brother must have met with an unexpected accident. Thinking of this, he was filled with grief and anger, and could not bear it any more. Junior brother. It's really me. Han Li dodged hurriedly. But he didn't expect that there would be a misunderstanding. Lin Fan on the side couldn't help but smile. As the man's 5 fingers formed claws, the fingertips were wrapped with visible sharpness, which was a condensation of energy. Bullshit. You are not. The junior brother's moves became more fierce. Han Li's brain was spinning rapidly. And Su? He thought of a way to prove himself. Junior brother. You spent 100 taels last time you went to the brothel. And you came out right after I left. In order to show your age, you hid in the corner for half an hour before coming out to find me. As soon as he finished speaking, the 5 fingers of the junior brother suddenly stopped in front of Han Li. You are really my senior brother. Of course it's true. Han Li was helpless. He had to tell the secret. Senior brother? Let's not talk about this in the future. Let's change the secret. In the future, you only need to say that my thing is 5.4 inches long. And I will know that you are my senior brother. The man said. Han Li. He really admired this junior brother Feng, who liked to flatter himself. 5.4 inches. Half of it would be good. But forget it. After all, he is his junior brother. And there is nothing wrong with complimenting him reluctantly. At night, Lin Fan walked around the Shinny Gate like a ghost. He walked to a building with a purpose. The library. This is where the Divine Gate placed the secret books. On the way here, he felt several extremely strong auras locking onto this place. Obviously, they were guarding this place. Entering the library, there were many books on the bookshelves inside. Pick one at random. Flip through it. If someone passes by here, they will find that the secret book is actually floating in the air, as if it is controlled by a force. And it is flipping through the pages autonomously. 9 levels of martial arts. Physical body, meridians, chi condensation, blood condensation, chi and blood unity, true strength, divine will, master, and heavenly man. He continued to flip through the pages, gaining a preliminary understanding of the martial arts, using the physical body as the foundation. Opening the path of martial arts practice is indeed a step-by-step progress. Steady and steady, and indeed quite interesting. A book was quickly flipped through. In his current situation, he could read books very quickly. Basically just glanced over them, and remembered them in his mind. Using incense as a bridge, he landed on every book on the bookshelf. And suddenly, the contents inside were continuously integrated into his mind. In a moment, the secret book that others might need several years to read was finished in a blink of an eye. Quietly left the library, soared into the air, and landed in the distant mountains and forests. Lin Fan took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and integrated the contents of the secret book in his mind. Since he took the path of incense, his consciousness has been improved countless times, and everything can be analyzed clearly in an instant. Given my current situation, it would be terrifying to practice the chi and blood martial arts system. After a moment, he combined the secret books that Shinny sect had placed in the library into a unique skill. Let's call you Tianren Tian. The secret books he combined can be practiced all the way to Tianren. Although the real unique skills of Shinny sect are not in the library, the knowledge contained in the books in the library is enough. Lin Fan sat cross-legged to practice Tianren Tian. Suddenly, his body seemed to explode, crackling, and the pores of his flesh opened, inhaling and closing, with infinite power. The 9th level of the physical body of the chi and blood martial arts is to polish the physical body. And Lin Fan's physical strength is naturally needless to say. It's done. 9th level of the physical body. If others want to reach this level, they must practice hard for 1 to 2 years. But for Lin Fan, it is simply simple and easy, without any problem. The next step is to open the meridians. It is necessary to open up the tendons and veins of the whole body and strengthen them at the same time. It's done. The 8th grade meridian opening. For Lin Fan, the progress of chi and blood martial arts cultivation is as simple as drinking water. The 7th grade chi condensation. The 6th grade blood condensation. Chi and blood are united. Lin Fan mixed the qi and blood in his body and intertwined them together. Normal people need various auxiliary methods to succeed in cultivation. But for Lin Fan, it is simply too simple. Suddenly, a majestic torrent of qi and blood overflowed from his body, and the woods were filled with seemingly sticky red blood mist, which was so colorful that people couldn't take their eyes off it at a glance. With a thought, he sucked the red blood mist into his body, which operated on its own and kept changing. A sharp and domineering force was formed in his body. The fourth grade true force is done. Lin Fan smiled with a smile on his lips. Cultivation is really simple. It can only be said that his own foundation is really solid. When he comes into contact with any kind of cultivation method, he can cultivate to the highest level at a very fast speed. The third grade divine realm is a little difficult. This is no longer a realm that can be broken through by forcibly practicing, but requires one's own understanding. Understanding of martial arts, understanding of the world, and understanding of life. At this moment, Lin Fan was in a state of concentration, and the pictures in his mind were like a movie, jumping one by one. In the dark, a mysterious divine will went straight from his heart to the gate of his mind. After a night, the first ray of sunlight in the morning shone in, and suddenly, Lin Fan opened his eyes. His eyes were shining, and his breath was ethereal. What others see with their eyes open is dispensable. After closing their eyes, even if Lin Fan is walking, they cannot sense anything. It is as if he has merged into the world. In just one night, he reached the first level of Heavenly Man realm from the 9th level of Physical realm, becoming the world's top master. However, in Lin Fan's view, the first level of Heavenly Man realm is not the end, and there is still a way to go. I just don't know if there is anyone in this world who has walked out. Or maybe the Divine Will sect may be just an ordinary or medium-sized sect with limited depth of secrets. He can cultivate to the Heavenly Man realm by himself, with only the secrets in the library, relying on his own deep foundation. Yes, the offensive of the Qi and blood martial arts is indeed fierce. The Qi and blood of ordinary people who have cultivated to a high level form 1,000-foot wolf smoke. And once Lin Fan's Qi and blood erupt, it will cover the sky and shake the world. 10,000 feet is just the starting point, and not the end. Suddenly, a bell sounded from afar, which was the sound from the Divine Will sect. Lin Fan got up and left. That only was an important opportunity for his faith to spread. The luck of Shini's sect is extremely weak. It is not far from destruction. It may be today or tomorrow. When he arrived at Shini's sect, he found that the remaining thin luck of Shini's sect was about to dissipate. The faces of the disciples of Shini's sect were all very gloomy. Finally, he learned the situation. It turned out that the leader of Shini's sect was dead. His cultivation was stuck at the 3rd grade Shini, and he failed to enter the 2nd grade master. His lifespan had come to an end. In addition, the hidden injuries left over from the past had recurred. Even if there were magic pills and elixirs, they could not extend his life. It seems that the luck of Shini's sect is closely related to the leader. The leader died, and the luck dissipated. He carefully felt, and found that there was only one 4th grade Jinjin master among the existing masters of Shini's sect. It seems that this luck has a lot to do with the sect's strongman, and the collapse of luck shows that the 4th grade Jinjin master cannot control the overall situation. At this time, the only 4th grade master of the Shini sect had a very solemn expression on his face. He had gathered all the core disciples of the Shini sect together. The sect master passed away, and I was unable to break through from the 4th grade to the 3rd grade. The disaster of the Shini sect is coming, and it is difficult to preserve the Shini Sutra. Shinhai said in a low voice. Shini sect has an enemy. That is the Butcher Patriarch. Once, the Butcher Patriarch committed many evil things, and the sect master personally took action. The 3rd grade fought against the 3rd grade for several days. The Butcher Patriarch was defeated, and fled far away, and hid. Suddenly, a voice came. Ha ha ha, the old thing is finally dead. Before the person arrived, the voice had already been transmitted from afar. Very deep. Like thunder. Suddenly, Shinhai and the others' faces suddenly changed, and they quickly pushed the door out. Then, a black shadow fell from the sky, and with a bang, it trampled the ground into pieces. A strong shock wave spread violently, and the ordinary disciples around could not resist it. They were swept up by the shock and crashed into the surrounding buildings. The butcher's ancestor Siaming, Shinhai said. Lin Fan, who was invisible, looked at the middle-aged man who suddenly appeared. He looked fierce, strong, and his muscles were like stones. It was hard to shake. At the same time, The other party had a black big knife on his back, casually wrapped with red cloth. The exposed blade was cold, and people dared not approach. 10 years. I have been in the surrounding mountains and forests for 10 years. Just for today. When Shinizi fought with me that day, he was hit by my true energy. I knew he was not far from death. I didn't expect that he would last 10 years. Siameng sneered. In these 10 years, he was waiting for Shinizi to die. Chenhai's face suddenly changed. He really didn't expect that Siameng, the butcher's ancestor, had been spying on Shin'iman for 10 years. But they didn't know it at all. It has to be said that this is an extremely terrible thing. Ancestor Butcher, what do you want? Chenhai said. Siameng smiled and said, What? Of course. I want to destroy your Shin'iman. I heard that your Shini Sutra seems to be good. I have been stuck in the 3rd grade for more than 20 years. I just want to learn from it, and see if I can break through to the 2nd grade Grandmaster level. Impossible. Even if I destroy the Shini Sutra, I can't give it to you, Chenhai said angrily. Siameng sneered, roared, and a powerful blood and chi burst out. Although he did not move, the weaker disciples around him could not bear the blood and chi, and vomited blood and fell to the ground. That's not up to you. As soon as he finished speaking, he slapped Chenhai with a palm. The momentum of this palm was so fierce that the air was squeezed and gradually distorted. Facing this palm, Chenhai's face was solemn, and he could only take it hard. Hongli, go. Take the things away. Chenhai shouted. Siameng said, None of you can get away. Bang! The 2 palms collided. Chenhai spit out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. Humph! You don't know your own strength. You dare to fight with me, with a mere 4th grade true strength realm. Siameng said disdainfully. He didn't take Chenhai seriously. He was just a slap that could be killed. Then, Siameng's eyes fell on Hongli. Hand over the things, and I'll spare your life. Hongli retreated with a solemn look. He knew that with his own strength, he was definitely not the opponent's opponent. But no matter what, he couldn't hand over the Divine Will Sutra. Siameng's patience was limited. In an instant, he appeared in front of Hongli, and his heavy giant hand fell on his head. The seemingly ordinary palm made Hongli unable to move, as if something was imprisoning his body. Junior Brother Feng shouted in grief and anger. As soon as he came, he saw the butcher ancestor slapping Senior Brother Hong's head. But, bang! An amazing scene happened. A golden light suddenly appeared on Senior Brother Hong's body, and then the butcher ancestor Siameng flew backwards. What the h.l.? Junior Brother Feng stared, and the whole person was stunned. At this time, not only he was stunned, but all the disciples of Shini's sect were dumbfounded. Chenhai, who was holding his chest and struggling to get up, didn't know what to say for a while. Hongli saw that Siameng, the butcher's ancestor, was suddenly ejected, and he was confused for a while. You? Siameng's face was very ugly. He looked around, suspecting that there was a master, but it was impossible. Even a 2nd grade master couldn't do what he just did. He pulled out the big knife behind him, waved his hand, and the red cloth fell, revealing the black and sharp big knife. Die for the ancestor. Siameng jumped up, and the black knife light emerged, falling directly towards Hongli. The power of this knife was very fierce. If he had used the knife just now, Chenhai would have been killed by the knife. Hongli, be careful! Chenhai rushed over. Bang! The blade fell on Hongli's head, but could not penetrate at all. Then, a huge force rebounded, and Siameng flew backwards again. What's going on? Siameng's face was very ugly. On the other hand, Hongli was very confused. He checked his condition left and right, and found that there was nothing wrong. He couldn't help but think of something. Oh! I understand. I really understand. I am protected by golden light. I built a temple for the gods. The gods saw my sincerity, so they are blessing me. It must be like this. Otherwise it can't be explained. Then, he pointed at Siameng. Slaughter knife ancestor Siameng. I, Hongli, have the protection of the gods. If you dare to kill me, you are against the gods. No one in heaven and on earth can save you. Siameng, Chenhai, Junior Brother Feng, all the disciples of Shini's sect. Chapter 97. This immortal can deal with it. And it really matters. Now Hongli is very proud, with his head held high, and he doesn't take the butcher knife ancestor Siameng seriously at all. The immortals protect him, and the golden light protects his body, no matter how the other party cuts him. He can't hurt him at all. Invisible Lin Fan calmly watched him pretending to be cool. He was very satisfied with the current situation. When the crisis of the Divine Will Gate is over, the reputation of the Tiandi Zhongshan Temple will definitely spread. At this time, the butcher knife ancestor Xia Ming was really confused. Immortal protection? What the hell are you talking about? What on earth do you have on you? Xia Ming shouted angrily. Nothing. I tell you very clearly, I have immortals in my heart, built temples for immortals, and am protected by immortals. You want to kill me? That's impossible, Han Li said. Bullshit. Xia Ming was furious, and his blood boiled in his body, condensing towards the butcher knife in his hand. And at the same time a burst of artistic conception burst out. The divine will of the butcher knife ancestor is the Sunluo Purgatory. Han Li, be careful, Chen Hai reminded hurriedly. It's okay. I have the protection of the gods. He can't hurt me. Han Li was still very proud, and didn't take the scene in front of him to heart at all. Xia Ming roared, drew his sword, and the black sword light covered him. The power of this sword was amazing, and it could even create an illusion for people, as if they were in a sea of blood. Die for me. This sword was very domineering. Even masters of the same third-grade divine or realm would not dare to take it casually when facing this sword. Facing this sword, Han Li still did not move at all. He believed that the gods would definitely protect him. Sure enough, when this sword fell on him, golden light appeared to block this sword. The powerful impact spread. Xia Ming's face changed slightly. His wrist trembled, and the sword in his hand actually broke inch by inch in his sight. Then, a recoil force swept up. Xia Ming's body was unstable, and he was directly shaken out. Ha! I told you, I have the protection of the gods. It's impossible for you to kill me. Han Li laughed and said, seeing Xia Ming's knife shattered. He was so shocked that his heart was beating wildly, and he explained that the gods were powerful. Xia Ming retreated again and again, stabilizing his body, looking at Han Li with a very solemn expression. Weird. Really weird. He couldn't see what Han Li relied on to block such a knife. Suddenly, Xia Ming felt a little panic, thinking of the gods that Han Li mentioned. Could he really be protected by the gods? Xia Ming seemed to think of something and couldn't help but sneer. You said you have the protection of the gods. Then the ancestor wants to see if your fellow disciples are protected by the gods. As soon as the voice fell, Xia Ming killed the disciples around him. You dare come at me if you dare. Han Li was anxious. His face changed instantly. After all, he had the protection of the gods because he built a temple for the gods. Others didn't know the gods, and whether they were protected by the gods was unknown. Suddenly, the situation suddenly changed. The wind and cloud surged between heaven and earth. The situation at this time shocked Xia Ming so much that he stopped and looked up at the sky. Before he could react, he saw a thunderbolt falling from the sky and suddenly struck Xia Ming. In the blink of an eye, Xia Ming was smoking all over. His skin and flesh were charred, and with a loud bang, he fell to the ground without any breath. The people around were dumbfounded. He died just like that? Ha! I knew it. It must be the work of the gods. He wanted to kill me before, so he wanted to kill the gods. I gave him opportunities again and again, but he didn't cherish them. He even wanted to hurt my fellow disciples, who had a close relationship with me. The gods naturally couldn't tolerate it, and attacked him brazenly. Brothers and sisters, don't thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank the gods, Han Li said excitedly, then knelt on the ground and kowtowed in the direction of Qingyuan town. Most of the disciples of Shini sect were injured by Xia Ming's blood and chi power. They only needed a few days of conditioning. The only one who was seriously injured was Chen Hai. After all, he was hit hard. Han Li, what's the matter with the golden light on your body? Chen Hai asked. Since the death of the sect leader, the burden of the Shini sect has been on him. The appearance of Xia Ming, the butcher's ancestor, made him despair. But who could have thought that something unexpected would happen? The golden light emanating from Han Li could actually block Xia Ming. This situation made Chen Hai feel incredible. The situation is like this. Han Li told him everything that happened in Qingyuan town. After a while, Han Li found that there was something wrong with the way everyone looked at him. The meaning of that look was as if to say, are you sure you are not kidding us? You don't believe what I said? This. Chen Hai's head was a little confused, and he really didn't know what to say for a while. Suddenly, Han Li was a little anxious, and began to take off his clothes in front of everyone. Look, I really don't have any treasure to protect my body. The golden light is really protected by the gods. I built a temple for the gods. And it must be because of this action that moved the gods. And Xia Ming wanted to hurt you. But the gods saw that you were related to us. And loved the house and the people. So they killed Xia Ming. Otherwise, there are so many of us. Who else can be struck? But he must be struck? Okay. Okay. Don't take off. Believe it. We believe it. Qin Hai hurriedly stopped Hong Li, really afraid that he would continue to take off his clothes and affect his image. After all, Hong Li is the successor of the future master of the sect, and he still has to be dignified in front of other disciples. But for Qin Hai, the saying of gods is very false. After all, there has never been a god in the world. But Hong Li's situation just now made him have to believe it. After all, the golden light can't be broken even by the strong men of the third-grade divine realm. And that thunder is really weird. Suddenly, Hong Li patted his forehead and said, "When I left Qingyu in town, I only left 3,000 taels. I think our Shin'i sect should spend a lot of money to build a big temple for the gods." Qin Hai stared at Hong Li in a daze. Hong Li continued, "We can even move the Shin'i sect to the vicinity of Qingyu in town, closer to the gods. Now no one knows about it except us. Letting the gods see our sincerity in advance will be of great benefit to our future development." He now completely believes in the gods. Hong Li, I think it is feasible to build a bigger temple for the gods first. As for moving the Shin'i sect there, don't you think it is a bit hasty to decide so casually? Qin Hai said in a deep voice. Is there? Don't be hasty. I think it's feasible. The place where the gods live is definitely blessed with outstanding people. We will move the Shin'i sect there and take root in the territory of the gods. With our respect for the gods, we will definitely be protected by the gods. Hong Li became more and more energetic as he spoke, and even began to imagine a better future. Lin Fan, who was invisible, nodded with satisfaction. He felt that Hong Li was very good. It seems that he needs to take care of him more. Qin Hai thought about what Hong Li said, pondered, and felt that it made sense. What he saw before was really shocking, so much so that his head was buzzing. Now thinking carefully, it seems that what Hong Li said is indeed something worth doing. Looking back at the past, the migration of any sect is a very important thing. Or it can be said that few sects will move away from the originally selected place. Buildings cannot be taken away. The cost of rebuilding is too high. Hong Li, first take care of the sect master's funeral. And let's go to Qingyu in town. Qin Hai said. Oh, yes. The leader is gone. Hong Li realized it late, and was too excited. 2 months later, Qingyu in town was very lively. Especially after the addition of a temple. The image of Qingyu in town was improved rapidly. The small temple on the hillside was gone. Instead, a large open space was cleared on the top of the mountain to build the Zhengshan Temple. The main hall of the Zhengshan Temple has been built, and other buildings are still under construction. The people of Qingyu in town have great trust in the gods in the Zhengshan Temple. They have all become believers. At this time, Qin Hai and Hong Li of Shin'i sect came here a month ago and increased their investment. When the mayor learned about it, he was completely shocked. Mayor, my Shin'i sect is going to take root here. What do you think? Qin Hai asked. The mayor's face flushed with excitement when he heard this. And even his drooping white beard was shaking, ready to stand up at any time. Really? In the mayor's opinion, if the Shin'i sect really took root in their Qingyu in town, then their Qingyu in town would really take off. Well, I have discussed with the disciples, and think that Qingyu in town is a beautiful place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. Qin Hai said. Hong Li on the side rolled his eyes. How can it be beautiful mountains and clear waters? It is obvious that he just wants to get closer to the gods. Migration is not a trivial matter, and it can't be done so quickly. At this time, Lin Fan landed on the main hall of the temple, looking at the people who came to burn incense below, with a smile on his face, taking a deep breath. The fragrance in the air is so comfortable. Of course, there is more incense. Then, his eyes fell on a woman outside the temple. The woman was carrying a child on her back. She knelt down with every step and came devoutly. The pilgrims around her looked at the woman and saw what was going on in a glance. It must be that the child behind her was sick. Girl, the Zhengshan Temple is very effective, as long as you are sincere, an old woman said. Thank you. The woman looked up, looking very haggard. My child is seriously ill. The doctor said he can't be saved. But I don't want to give up. I heard from others that the Zhengshan Temple here is very effective. So I rushed all the way here. It's okay. It will be okay, the old woman said. Not long after, the woman carrying the child came to the main hall. Qin believed in the gods, and was grateful to the gods for curing his mother. So he took the initiative to help clean up here, and also received pilgrims from other places, and explained the situation of the gods to them. The woman walked into the hall, took out silver and wanted to pay for the incense, but found that there was no box for the incense money. She was a little anxious for a moment. If she didn't pay the silver, how could she show her sincerity? Qin walked up to the woman and said, "This pilgrim, you don't need to pay silver. The gods don't need these. As long as you burn 3 incense sticks, kneel down sincerely, believe in the gods, and say what you want silently in your heart. That's it. Thank you." The woman listened to Qin's words, knelt on the futon, and prayed sincerely. The general meaning was basically the same. As long as the child can get better, even if one life is exchanged for another, it's fine. Lin Fan landed beside the woman, bent over, lowered his head, and looked at the girl on his back. She was not very old, only about 4 or 5 years old. Her face looked very bad. She looked sick, and her breath was very weak. In this era, if there were no elixirs from the sect, it would be difficult to cure such a disease. It was a terminal illness. His fingers gently touched the forehead of the woman in pain. Oh my! She still had a fever, and the temperature was high. In this case, even if the woman could not provide incense, he would cure her. After all, who would want to see a child suffer, and suffer from illness? Qinhai and Hongli from Shini's sect also came to the hall. Although Qinhai was not a doctor, he was a high-level martial artist, so he naturally understood the child's situation, and their sect naturally had elixirs for treatment. He just wanted to see how the gods would treat her. If it really didn't work, he would be willing to take out the elixir and let the child take it. Lin Fan also noticed Qinhai's gaze and smiled. He saw through his thoughts, but he didn't care. He pondered for a few seconds. He saw the birds flying around outside, and suddenly had an idea. He covered the birds with the power of incense, and the birds were under his control and flew into the hall chirping. Look! How did this bird get in? The pilgrims around were curious. Hey! Look! The bird flew to the statue of the immortal, and it actually pecked the golden body with a mouth. Oh! What kind of mouth is this? How did it peck a mark on the golden body? It has to be driven away. Some pilgrims believed in the immortals very much. Seeing the statue destroyed by the bird was naturally intolerable, and wanted to drive the bird away. Don't move. Qin hurriedly stopped. This bird is different from other birds. It may be a bird sent by the immortal. You just watch it. Sure enough, the bird flew back and landed on the woman's back, then approached the girl's mouth, pretending to feed the girl with the food in its mouth. Lin Fan, who was invisible, quickly used his incense magic. Mother! When the childish voice came, the pilgrims around were all stunned. Their eyes widened. Miracle! This is a miracle. Even Qinhai was shocked. He naturally believed in immortals, but he couldn't understand this situation. Plop! Qin knelt on the ground, shouting, "The immortals feed the daughter of believers with their immortal bodies and flesh, and cure serious illnesses. Merciful immortals." The people around saw this situation and hurriedly knelt down like Qin, shouting. Hongli knelt down quickly, and at the same time pulled Qinhai, who was in a daze. Master! Kneel down quickly. Qinhai, faced with this situation, Qinhai naturally did not hesitate, and knelt decisively. Lin Fan was very satisfied with the situation at this time. The fastest way to spread faith is to spread something, and let others know that he, the immortal, is really capable and can really believe. The kind of person who really does something. Chapter 98. I'm telling the truth. It's the same as what Lin Fan thought. The fairy tales with plots spread quickly. Not to mention that there were so many believers on the scene. Even the storytellers in the tea houses kept up with the pace of the times and adapted the stories. Exaggeration is just an embellishment technique, which is easier to resonate with everyone. Bird? What kind of thing is that? How can it be included in the story? It must be changed into a phoenix. The storytellers in some counties near Qingyuan town are still more realistic and have not adapted too much. The bird is still a bird. The only difference is that it has been changed into a colorful rainbow bird. It sounds interesting. It's easier to attract people. Half a month later, many mountain gates learned that the Shini gate was going to migrate, which shocked them. Why did they move the mountain gate for no reason? It's better to go to the remote Qingyuan town. It seems that there is nothing worth paying attention to there. It's just that the Shini gate decided to migrate. which is definitely not a casual idea. There must be a problem. Living in a mansion. Suddenly, you have to live in a doghouse. Unless there is a treasure in the doghouse. Soon, they got the news. There are gods in Qingyuan town. Shin's sect spent a lot of money to build a large temple in Qingyuan town to worship gods. So they thought about moving. When they heard about this situation, all the sects that paid attention to this matter were stunned. Could it be that Shin's sect had a brain seizure? But soon, they also learned that the original leader of Shin's sect died of old age. And Chen Hai took over the position of leader. The butcher ancestor, who was defeated by the original leader, that day came to kill Shin's sect. It stands to reason that a master like the butcher ancestor could easily destroy the leaderless Shin sect. But he was eventually killed by a thunderbolt. It is rumored that his disciple Han Li was protected by the gods. So he took action and dropped the thunderbolt. Many sect leaders, who heard this situation, felt confused. It was like listening to a myth. Naturally, they did not believe in the so-called gods. It's just that what Shen Yimin did is really hard to guess. There is no way. So I can only let the disciples go to explore and find out the situation over there. Time flies. Several months have passed. Qingyuan town is very lively. And the number of permanent residents has increased several times compared with the past. Especially the migration of Shen Yimin is deeply loved by many people. Living near Shen Yimin, they feel safe. During this period of time, Lin Fan, who has always been in a state of invisibility, is very satisfied with the current situation. Faith has begun to spread at a very fast speed. Especially ordinary people, who are even more crazy about his faith. And among the sects that practice martial arts, Shen Yimin has the most trust so far. At this time, wisps of incense floated from Shen Yimin. The incense of martial arts masters is indeed much higher than that of ordinary people. And even the ghost kings in the world of despair cannot compare with them. The time those ghost kings have existed may be hundreds of years or thousands of years. But that is just the time of existence. In terms of strength, this group of martial arts masters, who have practiced to a certain level, are stronger. The blood and chi are strong. And once they burst out, they can shock the ghosts with their blood and chi alone. Of course, in order to let those guys feel the benefits of believing in him, he will use some incense to slightly improve their physical condition. It's not very obvious, but you can feel it. This feeling happened at the moment of faith, which made them happy and felt that such a change must be caused by the gods. At this moment, Lin Fan looked into the distance and felt a strong blood and energy coming. It was not a disciple of the Shin sect. It was obvious that the situation of the Shin sect had attracted the attention of the outside world early on. Finally, a master could not bear the curiosity in his heart and came here to find out the true situation of the Shin sect. A figure appeared in the Shin sect martial arts training ground openly. This was a middle-aged man. When he saw a statue of a god standing in the middle of the martial arts training ground, his expression changed slightly. When he came, he went to the Zhengshan temple to see it. And it was exactly the same as the statue there. The Shin sect really moved the statue here. He was amazed in his heart. And he really couldn't understand the operation of the Shin sect. I was wondering who it was. It turned out to be Master Qi of Tianmen. Sorry for not welcoming you. Chen Hai's hearty voice came before he arrived. When Master Qi appeared near Qingyuan town, he had already felt it. This was also because Master Qi did not deliberately hide his blood and Qi. Otherwise, he would never be able to feel it. Master Chen. Master Qi bowed, and then said in surprise, Master Chen has broken through to the third-grade divine realm. He found that something was wrong with Chen Hai at a glance. He was shrouded in a divine will. Although he was restrained, it could not be hidden in the eyes of a master like him. It was just luck. Luck, Chen Hai said with a smile. He naturally didn't say that it was after I believed in the gods. One night when I was sleeping, I suddenly had a dream. The dream was very real. After waking up, it was like a revelation. My whole body was transparent. I grasped this feeling and broke through to the third-grade divine realm in one fell swoop. He knew that this was a gift from the gods. Otherwise, if he didn't break through earlier or later, did he have to break through after he believed in the gods? Besides, he knew his own weight. He dared not say that he would make great efforts in his middle age and move towards glory. Congratulations. Master Qi had been to Shi Gate before, so he naturally noticed Chen Hai. He had limited talent, and it was difficult for him to break through Shini. He did not expect that he had broken through to Shini realm after just a few months of not seeing him. He would never believe that there was no problem. Chen Hai said, I wonder if Master Qi came here for something important? He was asking knowingly. There were at most two reasons for the other party to come here. One was the rumor of immortals. The other was the migration of Shinigate. Especially the migration of Shinigate was the most noisy, which would definitely attract their attention. Master Chi said, "There is no important matter. But I heard that there were rumors of immortals here. So I came here specially." Uh-huh. Shinhai smiled and said, "Does Master Chi believe that there are immortals in the world?" "No." Master Chi replied without even thinking about it. If he wants him to believe that there are immortals in the world, he would rather believe that Saos can climb trees. Shinhai said, "Is it because Master Chi didn't see it with his own eyes?" "Yes and no. The idea of immortals is to deceive ordinary people and give them something to rely on. We who practice martial arts know the realm of heaven and man, and can sense the heaven and earth. Although we are not immortals, we are like immortals. However, Chi really wants to know whether Master Chen has seen it, or is it just for some other reasons, and needs to cooperate with others. So he did it on purpose?" Master Chi asked straight to the point. After going around in circles, given the situation of both sides, they could go around from day to night, but there was still no result. "No. I saw it with my own eyes. The gods are real, and I have to believe it," Shinhai said firmly. "Huh?" Master Chi was surprised. "Then the move of moving the mountain gate here is..." "Yes. It is to get closer to the gods." "Master Chi?" He wanted to cut Shinhai's head open to see what he was thinking. Lin Fan, who was unnoticed by anyone, was quite satisfied. According to the conversation between Shinhai and Master Chi, the mountain gate forces had also noticed the situation of the Zhengshan Temple. He felt very good. It was just that nothing happened between the two sides, and it would be difficult to make Master Chi believe. "Master Chi, I heard that your son was hit by an old man with dead wood. The dead wood's true energy permeated his body, and made him old every 100 days. Even the masters can't cure him. Why not send your son to the temple of Qingyuan Jinjin, and let him believe in the gods? Maybe the gods will see his sincerity and cure him," Shinhai said. Master Chi's mouth twitched, and he didn't say anything nonsense. "Goodbye." After saying that, he turned and left. His body skills were very strong, and he disappeared without a trace in a blink of an eye. Shinhai looked at the direction where Master Chi disappeared and shook his head. Alas, this master finally chose not to lie and tell you the truth of the gods. It seems that you still choose not to believe it. Poor son. Lin Fan, who was standing in front of Shinhai, blinked. Good guy. When Shinhai heard Hong Li's words about the gods, it was exactly the same as Master Chi's. He didn't believe it, and finally chose to believe it after seeing it with his own eyes. At this time, Sect Master Chi was ready to leave Qingyuan town, but he kept recalling what Shinhai said. He stopped and restrained his breath to prevent Shinhai from knowing that he was still strolling in Qingyuan town, which would affect his image. Sect Master Chi stopped an old man, gave him a piece of silver, and asked him about the Zhengshan Temple with a smile. When the old man saw the silver, his eyes lit up, as if he was afraid that the other party would regret it. He put the silver in his arms, and began to chatter about the rumors about the Zhengshan Temple. The rumors the old man said were similar to what he had inquired about. Don't look at me now, that I am 70 years old. Since I worship the Zhengshan Temple, my waist is no longer sore. My legs are no longer painful. And I can do anything. It's really accurate. The old man gave a thumbs up. And seeing that the man in front of him didn't seem to be very interested, he left with a smile. Well, what I heard is roughly the same. But? Master Chi walked and stopped, and asked passers-by who had seen the miracles at that time and whether they could introduce it. Of course, small change is still indispensable. For a martial arts master like him, the importance of silver is not high. It can only be said that he will bring money when the outside world needs it. If the outside world does not need money, with his strength, he can go anywhere in the world. It is easy to open the way with money. It was not until the evening. Master Chi hurriedly left Qingyuan town. On the way back, he felt several breaths rushing quickly, heading towards Qingyuan town. After him, there were still people going to Qingyuan town to inquire about the situation, which was also what he expected. But since there are gods in Qingyuan town, he naturally doesn't need to worry about it. The Zhengshan Temple is very quiet at night. Next, several figures appeared in the temple. They covered their faces and wore black clothes, just like those assassins, afraid of being recognized. There is nothing to check in Qingyuan town. If the Shinigate can move the mountain gate here, there must be something incredible. If you want to say where it is most likely to be, it is here. It can be seen that this temple is built too unevenly, and the words of the gods are released. Whose heart and whose eyes are they trying to confuse? Nonsense. They must be trying to confuse the eyes of the world's mountain gate. They were talking. Lin Fan was staring at them. He really didn't expect that someone would appear here in the middle of the night. Hearing their words, he couldn't help but want to laugh. This was because the actions of the Shiny Gate completely shocked them. They thought there must be treasures here. So they came to check. I don't know what they think. If there were really treasures, would the Shiny Gate not send experts to guard here and let you break in at will? Thinking of this, Lin Fan suddenly wanted to play with them. The three men in black had good cultivation. With a 4th grade true energy, they would be the backbone of any mountain gate. They could be said to be similar to Chen Hai. However, Chen Hai was no longer the same as before. He was a 3rd grade master of the Divine Will. He also saw that his cultivation was too weak. As the new leader of the Divine Will Gate, his cultivation was too weak, which was really not worthy of his position. So he improved it slightly. At this time, the three men in black were searching in all corners, knocking on the ground, knocking on the wall, and even jumping to the side of the statue, reaching out to touch the back to see if there was a mechanism. Where is the mechanism? It's hidden so deep. How can we not find it? Look carefully. There must be a problem. Oh! If you want to find it, look carefully. Why did you tap my shoulder? A man in black stayed in the corner, probing along the cracks in the wall with his fingers. He felt someone tapping his shoulder, and acted very impatient. Who tapped you? I didn't tap you either. Judging from the distance of the sound, it seemed to be quite far away. He turned back suddenly, and found that the two of them were exploring in the far corners, and didn't approach him at all. Suddenly, his pores stood up, and a chill rushed from the soles of his feet directly to his head. You didn't hit me? No. Me neither. But I just felt someone hit my shoulder. Suddenly, the originally quiet temple became even quieter. After a moment, a man in black slowly spoke. This doesn't sound like something you can say with the cultivation of the 4th grade true energy. It's really a bit embarrassing. It may be an illusion. Keep looking. They continued to search in the hall. Lin Fan slowly released his power, and in an instant, the 3 4th grade true energy masters drooped their heads and fainted. Then, Lin Fan used the incense magic power Dreamland to enter their minds, and began to build an illusion for them. Above the sky, they appeared in front of the gate of the heavenly palace. Looking around, the endless sea of clouds rolled. They looked at each other, and horror appeared in their eyes. They were clearly looking for something in the main hall. But how come they were here in the blink of an eye? They bravely walked through the gate of the heavenly palace. And what came into view were palaces that were magnificent and splendid, and filled with fairy spirits. Those palaces were so magnificent and grand that they were completely stunned. There were also many fairy birds flapping their wings and soaring. Just when they were fascinated by the sight, suddenly, a roar like thunder exploded in their ears. How dare a mere mortal offend the majesty of the Emperor of Heaven? In the next life, he will be reborn as a pig or dog. Then, a tall and huge giant appeared in front of them, with a red complexion and a ferocious look. He raised his giant foot and stomped on them fiercely. Ah! They screamed in fear. We don't want to be pigs or dogs. The dream was awakened. The three men in black opened their eyes and jumped up suddenly. They suddenly found that there were people all around them, and Chen Hai from the Divine Will Gate was beside them, staring at them angrily. Chapter 99. This one glance directly revealed. Who are you? Chen Hai saw at a glance that they were masters, and they were wearing night clothes. They were definitely not here to do good things. If they were here to do good things, would they dress like this? What he didn't expect was that they actually fainted here. Could it be that some master took action? Before Chen Hai continued to speak, he saw the three people hurriedly hug Chen Hai's thighs and beg for mercy. Master Chen, please ask the gods for mercy. We have no intention of offending him. Please don't let us become pigs and dogs in the animal world. The three people pulled down the cloth covering their faces and revealed their true faces. Chen Hai recognized who they were. They were masters of Wujiman. After all, their cultivation reached the 4th level. They were also well-known figures, not ordinary disciples. When they met, they treated each other as equals and talked with bows. Chen Hai's eyes rolled. Tell me, what happened? The three of them hurriedly talked about their nighttime actions, coming to the temple to look for treasures, and then suddenly losing consciousness, falling into a dream, appearing at the gate of the heaven, coming to the fairyland, and then being trampled flat by the red-faced and fierce gods. When Chen Hai heard what they said, he was immediately envious. He didn't expect that these guys could actually go to the heaven, although they were trampled back. It was also very enviable to see it with their own eyes. But of course, he would not show this envy. But he said solemnly, "You offended the gods, which is a heinous crime. But the gods are merciful and can wake you up, which is to give you a chance. In my opinion, you should serve the gods sincerely here to reduce your own sins." When the three heard this, they nodded frantically without thinking. The main thing for Wujiman is to know that the three masters in the sect failed to enter the temple at night, but had to stay here to serve the gods, which would definitely spit out blood. After all, this is a master in the mountain gate. Removing three at once means that Wujiman may only have him to support it in the future. Everyone, go about your business. Burn incense and pray. Shinhai waved his hand and turned to walk out. The three of them followed behind him. And then Shinji led them to the back room of the Zhengshan Temple, changed clothes, and officially lived in the Zhengshan Temple in the future. The three people from Wujiman didn't believe in the so-called gods at first. But now, they really believe it, because they saw it with their own eyes. As for returning to the mountain gate, it is impossible. It is their greatest luck to see the gods in this life. Although they offended the gods are willing to give them a chance. And they are also willing to atone for their actions, hoping that the gods will forgive them one day. A few days later, in the Zhengshan Temple, the leader of Wujiman stared at the three fellow disciples in front of him in amazement, rubbing his ears, as if he had heard it wrong. What did you say? Master He, we will all stay in the temple from now on, serving the gods. Please go back, Zhang Ting said expressionlessly. The Wuji sect master looked at Shinhai on the side, and directly blamed him for the final cause. He thought that Shinhai brainwashed them, or forced and threatened them. Master He, what you heard and saw is that it was not Shin who found them imprisoned here, but they stayed here voluntarily. Shinhai explained again. He didn't expect that Master He would send people to inquire about the secret. It was just that after several days, they didn't come back. Master He panicked at the time and hurried over to see. He had to let the people out. There was no choice but to bring him to see and let them talk in person. Come back with me, Master He said angrily. In the past, if he got angry, he would definitely make them tremble. But who would have thought? Zhang Ting said, Master He, please don't make loud noises in the quiet place of the gods. The gods have always been looking down on us. Master He, why don't you live in the Zhengshan Temple like us and believe in the gods together? Master He? He felt that there was definitely something wrong with these three guys. If there was no problem, how could he say such a thing? At this time, Master He had a lot to say, but he didn't know what to say for a while. So he left with his sleeves. Shinhai looked at Master He's back and could only shake his shoulders. He was helpless. Your three disciples are now serving the gods in the Zhengshan Temple. It's no longer the same as before. I definitely won't go back. Lin Fan silently watched everything that happened in front of him. He knew that at this moment, the gears of fate had begun to turn, and the Zhengshan Temple in Qingyuan town began to officially enter the site of all the mountain gates. Half a month later, the previously departed Master Qi came with his son. Lin Fan didn't cure him immediately, and didn't even believe it, but wanted him to perform incense treatment. Did he really treat him as free labor? Chen Ji has become a qualified temple priest. He settled Master Qi's son and asked him to follow him to pray sincerely in front of the gods every day. As long as your heart is there, the gods will pay attention to you. For such a situation, Master Qi could only choose to believe, leave his son here, and ask Shinhai to take care of him, and then left Qingyuan town and returned to Tianmin. The situation of the Zhengshan Temple in Qingyuan town spread completely. This immediately attracted the attention of many mountain gate masters. Although the Shinigate Gate has a third-grade Shinigate Realm master, it is not the strongest among all the mountain gates. After all, the real top mountain gate has a first-grade celestial being. 1 month later, the scope of faith spread wider and wider. The Zhengshan Temple in Qingyuan town has become a holy place in the hearts of believers. At the same time, the small statues of gods in Qingyuan town are sold very well. They are placed in the Zhengshan Temple for worship, and then let believers take them back. The threads of the power of incense are interwoven very widely. Others can't see it with their naked eyes, but in his eyes, the power of incense swarmed in from all directions, condensed in the temple, and passed to him through the statues. It took a little effort to get started in the early stage, but now it's okay, and I don't have to worry about it in the future. He knew that this thing needed to be gradual, and let it develop automatically. All he had to do was to show a little in the early stage. During this period of time, the son of Master Qi had recovered from his injuries. After all, when the other party sent incense, He still had to do what he should do. And the main point was fairness. Suddenly, huh? Lin Fan looked into the distance, and a figure appeared over there attracted his attention. Looking intently, it was an old man in a white robe. He looked ordinary, but he was not a simple old man. He walked steadily and calmly among the crowd, seeming to exude an invisible aura, and the people who passed by him would involuntarily make way for him. Lin Fan stared at him and said slowly, "The invisible pressure is everywhere. This is a master, a first-class heavenly being. I didn't expect that after so long. An old man in the heavenly realm would finally come here. After reaching the heavenly realm, although the lifespan is not as long as that of a turtle, it is no problem for hundreds of years. The older they are, the stronger they are. It doesn't matter if their chi and blood are weak, because they start to play with the power of heaven and earth. It is obvious that the Jinshin temple has begun to go out of the circle and has attracted the old guy." He fell from the top of the hall and came to the old man. The old man walked, and he backed away, leaning his head close to observe the old man's condition carefully. Although he has a long white beard, it has to be said that each beard is full and silvery. Although the old man is in the heavenly realm, he still can't feel Lin Fan's presence. Soon, the old man came to the main hall. Chen Ji, who was receiving pilgrims, saw that the old man was a bit old, and hurried over. "Grandpa, you are here to burn incense, right? Our gods are very effective. As long as you believe in them, you will be healthy." The old man glanced at Chen Ji. "Boy, do you think I am unhealthy?" Chen Ji looked at him. He looked at him hurriedly just now, and saw that he had a long white beard. He thought he was old. But now, he looked carefully, and saw that the old man had a ruddy face, and was full of energy. He seemed to be in better condition than him. "Healthy. Grandpa is very healthy." The old man ignored Chen Ji, but looked at Zhang Ting, who was wiping the altar not far away, and squinted slightly. "A fourth-grade warrior works here?" He also heard others say that there were gods in the Jinshin temple in Qingyuan town. He didn't believe in such a statement. He always thought that it was a master of the heavenly realm who felt confused about the future. So he traveled the world, played the role of a living god, and had fun with the world. After finishing his work, Zhang Ting wanted to sweep the floor, but the old man's appearance was a bit conspicuous. He couldn't help but take a look and then swept past him. But soon, he turned back suddenly and looked at the old man in shock. His eyes changed from calm to shocked, because he felt a strong sense of oppression from the old man, as if the air around him was sucked dry. Very uncomfortable, and his heart was throbbing very strongly. Master. A real master. Definitely a strong man above the master, if you have to characterize it. Then with the appearance of this old man, I'm afraid he is a celestial being. Young man, come here. The old man waved at Zhang Ting. The seemingly casual wave seemed to contain some kind of magic. Zhang Ting felt that his body seemed to be unaffected by his thoughts, and walked in front of the old man. The old man pointed at the golden statue and said, "What kind of god is this?" Zhang Ting suppressed his fear, and thought that he was in the temple. What could he be afraid of? He said, "The god of heaven." He. The god of heaven. The old man smiled, and slowly raised his head, communicating with the power of heaven and earth. His eyes were shining brightly, and he looked at the statue fiercely. "Let me see what is behind this statue." Lin Fan instantly felt the shaking power of heaven and earth. It was obvious that the other party wanted to see through the truth here. Good guy. How could he tolerate casual peeping? He merged into the statue. The golden body of the Dharma was hidden, and the majestic incense power was boiling. Ah! Suddenly, a scream rang out. The old man, who was originally calm and composed, felt a stinging pain in his eyes. He suddenly covered his eyes and collapsed to the ground, rolling on the ground, with blood flowing out of his eyes. The pilgrims around were all shocked by the old man's condition. How could he become like this? "Grandpa, what happened to you?" Chen Ji hurried forward to ask. Since the construction of the Jinshin temple, such a thing has never happened. Zhang Ting was about to inform Master Chen when he saw Master Chen coming from afar. He felt the vibration of the power of heaven and earth just now. A truly peerless strongman came to the Jinshin temple. As soon as he entered the temple, he saw an old man rolling on the ground with tears and blood in his eyes. He looked at Zhang Ting in confusion. Zhang Ting said, "I don't know what happened to him. I saw him staring at the statue, and then he became like this." Chen Hai was silent for a moment, as if he thought of something, and slowly said, "Just now the power of heaven and earth shook. I think it should be that this old man peeped at the statue with his eyes, offended the immortal, and was punished. Ah, Zhang Ting opened his mouth. The power of heaven and earth. It seems that his idea is right. This old man is a first-class heavenly strongman. But what he didn't expect is that even the heavenly strongman is so fragile in front of the immortal. It can only be said that the immortal is really unfathomable. After a while, the old man's condition has improved. He slowly climbed up from the ground. It seems that his eyes are bleeding. But in fact Lin Fan has held back. It's just a small punishment. With the other party's cultivation, it will recover quickly. At this time, the old man rubbed his eyes and dared not look directly at the statue. His calm expression seemed flustered and terrified. At that moment, he felt a deep fear. That was an existence that could not be looked at directly. What on earth is this? Is there really an immortal? Chen Hai took the initiative to say, "This senior. The temple is the place where the gods accept the prayers of believers. It cannot be offended. Just now, it was just some small punishment from the gods to the seniors. Do not offend again." Although the other party was very powerful, he was not afraid. The backer behind me, Chen Hai, is not a celestial being, but a god. Calling you a senior is just a personal cultivation. The old man looked at Chen Hai, and then staggered out of the temple. Chen Hai stared at the old man's back as he left, thinking in his heart that he felt that the old man looked familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. But it was very vague, indicating that there was only one possibility. That year he stood in the crowd like a minion, acting as a bystander, standing a little far away. His appearance was relatively vague, and as time went by, he gradually couldn't remember it. Without thinking much, Chen Hai bowed to the statue. Nowadays, more and more disciples of the Mountain Gate believe in gods, and even other mountain gates want to move to Qingyuan town. Chen Hai was still a little unhappy about this situation at first, but when he thought that they believed in gods, he did not feel unhappy. All of them had the same belief, so they were family. What are the benefits of believing in gods? He knew that with the protection of gods, the cultivation talents of disciples in this sect would be improved. When they encountered bottlenecks in cultivation, they should not panic or rush, but kneel down to worship God sincerely, and then cultivate, and everything would come to fruition in an instant. More importantly, there were disciples in this sect who were ambushed outside. In critical moments, they asked gods for protection, and the same situation as Han Li appeared. This made Chen Hai ponder for a long time, and finally came to a conclusion. The belief in gods is also divided into levels, and the protection of gods to believers is also determined by the degree of belief. Therefore, the more you believe in the gods, the more you will be protected by them. In response to this, Chen Hai placed a small statue of the gods in his bedroom, and prayed for an hour before going to bed and after waking up. The main point is sincerity. Far away, the old man who left the temple came to the river, lowered his head, looked at the face reflected on the lake. His eyes were red, and it was extremely scary. I just used the power of heaven and earth to take a peek, and it turned out like this. Could it be that it is really a god? The more the old man thought about it, the more frightened he became. He got up and quickly went to the distance. He didn't dare to stay in Qingyuan town. But suddenly, he stopped and lowered his eyebrows and thought, if there really is a god, can you point me to the realm above heaven and man? Thinking of this, the old man had an idea in his mind. Chapter 100 Disaster is coming. He's back again. In the hall, Lin Fan looked at the old man who had just been slightly punished by him, and he was very curious. No matter what, the old man's cultivation had reached the realm of heaven and man. If the realm of the world is not chaotic, he is a peak strong man, enough to travel the world, go wherever he wants, and do not need to look at other people's faces. Even the emperor of the court of the world would have to be respectful when seeing the old man. After all, they are not afraid of such strong men being open and above board, but they are afraid that the other party will come secretly. If it is an assassination, who can stop it? Therefore, the strong who have reached this realm can indeed do whatever they want. Chen Ji has learned from Zhang Ting that this old man is a strong man who has been secluded from the world. He peeked at the gods and displeased the gods, and was punished. Now the other party is here again, which makes Chen Ji's eyes always stay on the other party. Chen Ji has regarded the temple of the god as the most important place. No one is allowed to destroy it, even if the old man in front of him is very powerful. He is not afraid. The old man bowed to the statue, and then turned away without saying anything, or even disturbing anyone. Chen Ji looked at the old man's back as he left, touching his head, very curious. He came and bowed to the statue, but didn't say anything. Well, he must have apologized to the gods for his previous behavior. That's right. It must be like that. Lin Fan witnessed the old man's departure, and he knew that the old man would come again. It was late at night. There were no secrets in the temple. Only gods. Chen Hai would naturally not guard it. That is, the temple keeper Chen Ji would patrol around with a lantern, and then go back to sleep. In the hall, a figure appeared. It was the old man in the daytime. The other party walked to the futon, knelt down with a plop, and kowed out heavily to the statue. I am Dong Fengshen. I didn't know that immortals really exist. I'm sorry for offending you. Please forgive me. He buried his head and didn't dare to look up. After a while, he slowly raised his head. As far as the current situation is concerned, he believes in immortals. No matter what kind of person they are, they will only believe those seemingly unrealistic things after experiencing them personally. Lin Fan watched quietly, waiting for the other party to say next. The other party ran here in the middle of the night, and he was definitely not idle. There must be something. Dong Fengshen continued. I started practicing at the age of 5, entered the 9th grade at the age of 7, and the 8th grade at the age of 10. Before the age of 30, I had already practiced to the 3rd grade of God's Will realm. At the age of 35, I entered the 2nd grade Grandmaster. On my 50th birthday, I entered the 1st grade of Heaven and Man realm. This speed is the best in the world. Except for me, the fastest one entered the Heaven and Man realm at the age of 60. I believe that I have unparalleled talent for cultivation. Now I am 100 years old, but I still can't find a way to break through the Heaven and Man realm. Please show me the way to a higher realm. After saying that, Dong Fengshen bowed to the statue again. Lin Fan, who watched the whole process, was really helpless about Dong Fengshen's request. Good man. He came here with a clear purpose. However, before he had faith, he would not be able to give Dong Fengshen any help, not to mention surpassing the Heaven realm and creating a new practice for him. To be honest, this request was very difficult. If he had to choose, he would still choose small things like saving lives and curing diseases. Just as Lin Fan was muttering in his heart, Dong Fengshen took out an ancient booklet from his arms. The gods are powerful, so they naturally look down on our martial arts and are not familiar with them. This is my practice method, called True Scripture, which has been passed down for more than 300 years. Then, he took out a tortoise SHL. This is an ancient artifact I accidentally found on the coast of the East China Sea. The surface patterns are complex, but it contains many powerful martial arts. It has been decades since I got this thing, but I have only comprehended 2 martial arts. He slowly stood up and put the booklet and the ancient tortoise SHL behind the statue. This is to let the gods have time to help take a look. It must be bad to put it on the ground like this. It will be picked up by someone. After doing these things, Dong Fengshen left quietly. The hall returned to tranquility. This old guy has given me all the difficult problems, but he left all the cultivation methods, which seems to be good. The ancient book placed behind the statue slowly floated up, covered with incense, and checked the contents of the book. For others, the contents of this book are all-encompassing and difficult to understand. But in Lin Fan's current situation, it only takes a moment to understand the contents of this book. It is simple, and can be seen through at a glance. The true scripture really contains the true method. The content is more profound than what I have seen before, reaching the realm of heaven and man. And even each grade of cultivation method in it is equally profound and unfathomable. Lin Fan gave a high evaluation of this true scripture, thinking of the old man's strength. He is indeed very strong. In this copy world, he is probably the best in the same realm in the world. Then he picked up the tortoise SHL. The patterns on it are indeed complicated and seem to be man-made. With just one glance, he felt the fluctuations emitted by these patterns, as if there were pictures in his mind. He gathered incense and covered the tortoise SHL, and began to analyze it with the power of incense. In an instant, the lines on the tortoise SHL appeared brightly, and pictures appeared in his mind. The little people in the pictures were performing their own unique skills. Using the power of incense to analyze these profound things was simply a dimensionality reduction attack. Even if the old man was in the heavenly man realm, he had only figured out 2 unique skills after decades of thinking. But in Lin Fan's case, it was simple. Lin Fan watched carefully, seemingly not following the practice, but his heart was already practicing. When the martial arts of this world are practiced to the heavenly man realm, they can mobilize the power of heaven and earth, thus erupting unprecedented terrifying power. But the Heavenly Man realm also has a shortcoming. That is, lifespan. It seems that the Heavenly Man realm masters in this world have a lifespan of only 300 or 400 years. At the same time, the blood and chi will continue to weaken with age. This weakness cannot be called a true Heavenly Man. Meditating, he gathered his knowledge of the martial arts of this world, as well as his understanding of the abilities of the gods, and began to deduce with a large amount of incense and divine power. Incense is the purest power of living beings, and its effect is extremely mysterious. Although he dare not say that he can do everything, at least most things can be done. I don't know how long it took. Lin Fan suddenly opened his eyes, and he looked inside his body. A golden pill like a pill appeared in his abdomen, exuding a vigorous breath of life, condensing the martial arts chi and blood together, absorbing the power of heaven and earth to nourish the golden pill, strengthen its vitality, and let the body reach the peak state. This is the latest realm of deduction, which can be called the realm of immortality, beyond the realm of heaven and man. A new realm. The process of deduction consumes a lot of incense, and at the same time needs to rely on the power of incense. Otherwise, it is extremely difficult to condense the blood and chi, and it is easy to have problems, causing the blood and chi to explode, which may damage the foundation at the least, and be the end of the game at the worst. He left the hall with the booklet and the tortoise SH.L. found Dong Fangshan in Qingyuan town. The other party was sleeping. But for such a master, there was no difference between sleeping and not sleeping. Even the slightest movement could not escape the perception of such people. But Lin Fan was standing in front of him. But the other party had no perception. It was dawn. Dong Fangshan got up, thinking about worshipping at the Zhengshan temple. Just as he was about to push the door out, he suddenly stopped and looked at the things on the table in shock. He hurried over, picked it up, and saw that it was the true scripture and the tortoise SH.L. This. He clearly put this thing behind the statue. How come the thing appeared on the table when he woke up? Man-made? Impossible. No one can escape his perception. Even masters in the heavenly realm. God. That's right. It must be the God who sent the things back. He pushed all the possibilities to the God. Who else can do it except this one? But this situation made Dong Fangshan fall into deep thought again. For the God to send the things back overnight. Is it because he doesn't want to agree to his request? He shook his head and felt that it was wrong. If the God really disagreed, there was no need to pay attention to him. The things would be placed there without even a glance. It's like walking on the road and begging for some food. For a being like him, beggars are dispensable. If you want to ignore them, just ignore them and treat them as non-existent. But now that the God has sent things to his room, there is only one possibility. That is, the God has known the way to break through to a higher realm, but just feels disgusted with the things he placed there. Yes, it must be like this. Apart from this explanation, he really can't think of any other explanation. Pack up the things. Leave the inn in a hurry. Arriving at the main hall of the Zhengshan temple, Dong Fangshan first bowed to the statue, then walked to Qinji. Temple keeper, can I stay in the temple for a long time and serve the gods? Of course. I won't live here for nothing. After saying this, he took out the silver notes on his body and put them in Qinji's hand. Qinji looked at the old man in a daze. Grandpa, don't want the silver. If you want to live here and serve the gods, it's naturally no problem. You can just take back the silver. He stuffed the silver back into Dong Fangshan's hand. Dong Fangshan wanted to say that for someone like me, the silver notes are just dung, and there is no need to return them to me. Just consider it as some of my contributions to the Zhengshan temple. But Qinji continued, Grandpa, I heard that you are very powerful. I want to learn some skills from you. If something happens in the temple in the future, I can also do something for the gods. Hearing this, Dong Fangshan narrowed his eyes. You want to worship me as your master? He didn't expect that this kid actually had such an idea. Who is he, Dong Fangshan? He is a first-grade master in the Heavenly Man realm. If he were to express his intention to accept a disciple, the whole world would be shocked. Could it be that this kid knows who I am? So he has such an idea? Well, this thought is not very pleasing to him. Qinji shook his head and said, No, I don't want to be a disciple. I am a temple priest of the Zhengshan temple. I will only serve the gods in this life. I only believe in gods. I will not worship anyone as a master. I just hope that the old man can teach me a little bit of skills to solve the difficulties. Dong Fangshan understood instantly. Qinji seemed to be right. But the meaning was that I believe in gods, and I am a temple priest here. Who can be my master? After all, I am valued by the gods. Although he understood this meaning, Dongfangshan was not angry and smiled and said, Okay. No problem. Thank you, old man. Then please follow me, and I will arrange a place for you to live, Qin said. When they walked outside, Qin looked into the distance and saw that the sky in the distance was very bad, with dark clouds floating. It's going to rain, Dongfangshan said. Not only is it going to rain, there is a natural disaster coming between heaven and earth. He has reached the realm of heaven and man, and his perception of heaven and earth is very keen. But even if he is keen, he still cannot compete with it in his situation. In front of the real heaven and earth, he is still very humble and insignificant. Qin opened his mouth. Dongfangshan patted his shoulder and said, This is not what you want to think about. It has been like this for thousands of years. No matter what happens, it will eventually pass. That's right. A few days passed. All the people in Qingyuan town showed their worries. The rain continued for several days, and there was no sign of stopping, which made them very scared. Moreover, the scope of this rainstorm was not only Qingyuan town, but also several surrounding counties. The mountain collapsed and the river rose. Dongfangshan stood at the door of the main hall, looking at the empty Zhengshan temple, and then looking at the gray sky in the distance, talking to himself in his heart. Will the gods help the people? Or will the gods also obey the will of heaven and not stop this natural disaster for mortals? The rain continued to fall, and several days passed. The crops of the people were flooded, and the water level reached the knees. This was a real natural disaster. If the rain stopped now, it would only damage the crops for the people. But if it continued, it would affect the safety of the people. At this time, many people were kneeling there, kneeling in the direction of the Zhengshan temple. The people in the surrounding counties were also the same, while the officials in the county were like ants on a hot pot, at a loss. They knew that if they continued like this, something big would happen. The number of people affected by this incident would be more than 200,000. Suddenly, something happened in Qingyuan town. The mountain torrent is coming. The mountain torrent is coming. Some people shouted in panic. The turbid mountain torrent roared like a river dragon, and the trees along the road were knocked down. Some houses were also washed away, and some people were swept away by the mountain torrent. Help! Help! The wailing cries for help continued. At this time, Lin Fan, who was staying in the Zhengshan temple, sensed everything around him. The people covered by the flood were fine. They had been safe under his protection. But he did not expect that this natural disaster would be so overbearing. He knew that now was the time for him to truly show himself. Now, the people shrouded by the disaster were panicked. They were pale and nervous, and they did not know what the final result would be. But at this moment, a loud bell rang through the world, shaking their hearts. Then, the heavenly sound that they could not understand came from the sky. Solemn, magnificent, and heavy. Dongfangshan, who was standing at the door of the Zhengshan temple, trembled and shook all over. He suddenly turned back and looked at the statue. This was the immortal taking action. There were believers of the immortals near Qingyuan town. Now that the believers were in trouble, he thought that this was because the immortals felt that they could not ignore it and had to fight against the world alone to reverse the situation. Chapter 101 Becoming a God, and a golden light penetrated the heavy clouds, descended from the sky, and landed on the land affected by the flood. The gods have taken action. The gods have come to save us. The people who were worried about the flood cheered. It was not only the people in Qingyuan town who were cheering, but also the people in other places. The sound of heaven came from the sky and reached the ears of every citizen. As the golden light fell, gradually, a figure gradually emerged in the golden light. This figure was very majestic, and the whole body was wrapped in light, revealing mystery, and it was impossible to peek into his true appearance. When the figure appeared, Dongfangshan, who was standing at the door of the hall, suddenly flushed, covered his chest, and pressed down his excited heart to prevent it from jumping out. It's really a god. Dongfangshan's pupils were filled with horror. He saw it with his own eyes, and had to believe that the appearance of the gods had a great impact on him. At this time, the god played by Lin Fen came down without saying a word, slowly raised his hand, and pointed at the rushing flood. In the sight of the people, an amazing scene happened. The turbulent torrent actually went back and retreated quickly. The people covered by the torrent were covered by a circle of golden light, floating, and slowly fell to the ground. Except for the wet clothes, everything else was safe and sound. They looked back at the receding flood, with heavy horror in their eyes. They stood there stupidly for a long time, and couldn't come back to their senses. Until they were awakened by a series of exclamations. They suddenly realized and looked at the majestic figure that appeared between heaven and earth. "Thank you, God, for saving my life." Kneeling and shouting, Lin Fan waved his hand. The rainstorm suddenly stopped. The heavy dark clouds dissipated, and the sun shone on the ground again. Such means have stunned everyone. There are naturally many martial arts masters in the county town near Qingyuan town. But the scene before them now makes them feel that this is no longer something that humans can do. Immortals? Only immortals can have such means. They have naturally heard the rumors about the Qingyuan Jinjing temple. Although they were shaken in their hearts and felt that there might be immortals, they had not seen them with their own eyes. Therefore, it was normal to doubt. At this time, Lin Fan, who was shrouded in golden light, slowly lowered his head. To the people, this was the mercy of the immortals to them. To the believers whose faith had reached a crazy level, they shouted even more frantically, hoping to get the attention of the immortals. Gradually, the golden light dissipated, and the majestic shadow gradually dissipated. Lin Fan appeared quickly and left quickly. But to the people, they were completely crazy, and could not suppress the excitement in their hearts. 1 year, 10 years, even until death. I will never forget what I saw today. Today, Dongfang Shan has knelt at the door of the hall, kneeling in the direction where the immortals just appeared. As a strong man in the heavenly realm, he was completely convinced. Lin Fan returned to the hall with a smile on his face. This move is safe. He could imagine what would happen in the future. Qingyuan town would become the birthplace of immortals, and believers from all corners of the world would gather here to spread his miracles to every corner. A few days later, as he expected, more and more people came to Qingyuan town. When they stepped into the town, they heard about the things that happened a few days ago. The gods really appeared. And it was not just one person who saw it, but many, many people. There was no fakery. After a few days, the court was also alarmed. The appearance of the temple of the true God naturally could not attract the attention of the court at first. As the number of believers gradually increased, the court began to pay attention. Seeing that it was not a cult, he did not care. However, after this appearance, the person in the court finally could not sit still and came in person. When he saw that the emperor began to worship him, Lin Fan knew that the real time for the faith to spread thoroughly had come. Return to Blue Star. Only a little time had passed. Early morning. Hiss, what a magnificent incense. A large amount of incense power surged from the world of Broken Realm. Thinking of the proportion of time passing, he instantly understood that it might have only been one night on Blue Star. But for Broken Realm, it was a very long time. Thinking of this, he smiled and continued to develop the incense of several copy worlds, and the incense of Spinach Star. He could become a god by lying on Blue Star. Time passed quickly. Half a month later, with the changes on Spinach Star, the arrival of the Adventers on Blue Star will not bring any impact to Blue Star. It is just that they must be monitored. After all, no one can guarantee that there are no brain twitch people making trouble on Blue Star. Of course, this situation should not happen. Although the Adventers who make trouble can be resurrected on Spinach Star even if they are killed. But with his ability on Spinach Star, as long as the other party is resurrected, he will be greeted with severe and terrible punishment. That is real death. During this period, he returned to the broken world. Dongfangshan worked in the temple of the true God for 10 years, and became a temple priest. He also believed in him early. Seeing that the other party was so diligent, he entered his dream at night, and pulled Dongfangshan to the fictional heaven to guide him to the mystery of the immortal realm. After obtaining the cultivation method of the heavenly realm, Dongfangshan was very excited in the heavenly court. But it was not what Lin Fan wanted to see. After Dongfangshan woke up, Lin Fan was in his room, quietly waiting for Dongfangshan's excitement. Sure enough, he did not disappoint him. Dongfangshan's facial expression gradually became excited, and in the end, he was completely crazy, like a madman, yelling in the room, even rolling on the ground, completely ignoring his age. Lin Fan kept nodding his head. Sure enough, no matter how old a person is, as long as he gets something he dares not think of but realizes, he will be as crazy as a child. Return to Blue Star. Lin Fan's life has completely returned to peace. The only thing that makes him a little upset is that the traffic of the zoo has plummeted. The business is not even 1/10 of what it used to be, with a group of Adventers from Spinach Star appearing on Blue Star without any cover. Strange and weird things are no longer rare. This is a fatal blow to his zoo. It doesn't matter whether there is money or not. The main thing is that the sense of accomplishment of bringing the zoo back to life from the brink of bankruptcy is gone. Alas. Thinking of this, Lin Fan was also helpless. He even thought about whether to ban the group of guys from Spinach Star from entering, and let Hollow and others come to ensure the freshness of things. In the end, he thought about it and gave up. 1 year later, his belief has completely occupied the world of breaking boundaries, mainly because the news that Dongfang Shan had reached a higher level had spread, and the immortals had actually given guidance to Dongfang Shan. This made the major mountain gates unable to sit still, and they all began to believe in Lin Fan. One day, he was leisurely staying in the office, watching TV series. Suddenly, the incense god position changed. He was shocked and his face changed slightly, and he hurried to check the situation. He saw that the original incense level had changed. The ancestor of incense? I have reached the peak of the incense god position. At this moment, Lin Fan only felt that he seemed to be completely omnipotent, controlling the huge power of incense and being able to do everything. After a moment, Lin Fan leaned back in his chair and looked at the ceiling. I have truly become a god. 3 years later. During this time, he would go to those copy worlds to take a look when he had nothing to do, and go back to the zoo when he was tired. He lived a relaxed and comfortable life. Even if he became a god, he didn't feel that becoming a god was anything great. He didn't want to dominate the world, and he was always the same as before. And the broken world is really the final copy world. Since then, no higher level world has appeared. He felt that the thing that Spinach Star had brought to the copy world might be for him to harvest the incense of mortals, and use the incense to achieve his status as a god.